The best gift you could give us is to disappear. My wife dumped me so her ex could be the real dad at my stepson's dream wedding I paid for. So I canceled everything, sold the house, and left them with nothing but the truth. The rehearsal dinner ended at 9:47 p.m. I know because I looked at my watch twice. Once when the last guest trickled out into the February cold, and again when Caroline asked me to stay behind to talk about tomorrow. The venue was one of those converted barns that cost more per hour than most people make in a week. Fairy lights were strung like captured stars between the exposed beams. White roses were wilting slightly in their crystal vases, exhausted from being beautiful all night. My stepson Marcus was at the far end, laughing with his groomsmen, his fiancée Sophie, radiant beside him in a rehearsal dress that probably cost what I used to make in a month before I sold my software company, before I became the man who made all of this possible. Caroline touched my elbow, that particular touch that wasn't affection, but direction. Let's go outside for a moment. I need some air. We'd been married 3 years, together 4. I knew her touch in all its variations. The grateful squeeze when I paid her mother's medical bills, the absent-minded pat when she was thinking about something else, the calculated pressure when she wanted something expensive. This touch was different. This touch had an air of finality. The February air bit through my suit jacket as we stepped out onto the stone patio. It had snowed earlier, leaving everything coated in that particular silence that comes with fresh snow. Beyond the patio, the property stretched out into the darkness. 12 acres of prime real estate I'd booked for this weekend at a cost that would have made my younger self physically ill. Caroline didn't look at me. She looked out into the darkness, her breath making little clouds that dissipated quickly like words you can't take back. I need to tell you something, she said, and I need you to just listen. I'd heard that tone before. In boardrooms right before someone announced they were dissolving a partnership, in lawyers' offices just before the word, unfortunately, appeared, in hospitals just before everything changed. I said nothing. The silence stretched. A deer moved somewhere in the distant tree line, and the fairy lights behind us hummed their electric song. Robert's back. 2 simple declarative words. Robert, her ex-husband, Marcus's father, the man who for our entire relationship she had described as a mistake, a life lesson, a closed chapter. Robert, who'd left when Marcus was 7. Robert, who'd defaulted on child support payments, birthdays, and graduations. Robert, who'd been conveniently absent when I paid for Marcus's college, his first car, his apartment. This wedding he showed up 3 weeks ago. Caroline continued, still not looking at me. I was going to tell you at first, but Marcus was just so happy. They've been seeing each other talking, healing old wounds. She said healing old wounds as if quoting from a therapy session. And then I realized something. The cold was seeping through my shoes, turning my feet into blocks of ice. But I didn't move. I couldn't move. Sometimes you know that moving will make things real, and as long as you stay perfectly still, you can exist in the last moment before everything breaks. What did you realize? My voice sounded strange, too calm, like I was asking about the weather. She looked at me now, in the light spilling from the barn. Her face was half shadow, half illumination. Beautiful. I still thought she was beautiful. That was part of the problem. We were happy once, Robert and I, before the drinking, before the gambling, before it all fell apart. And now he's different, sober, stable. He's got a good job. He's been going to therapy. He wants to be a father again, a real father. He wants to be a father the day before his son's wedding. I heard the edge in my voice, as sharp as the February wind. How convenient. What perfect timing. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't make this about timing or convenience. This is about family, real family, blood. And there it was, the word that divided the world into us and them. Blood, as if the 3 years I'd spent loving her son, supporting him, celebrating him, guiding him, as if none of that could add up to the magic of shared DNA. Marcus wants his real father at the wedding, Caroline said, and each word landed like a stone in still water, sending out ripples I would feel for years. Walking me down the aisle would be Robert's role traditionally, and the father-son dance, and the toast. It all should be Robert. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw a stranger. Or maybe I saw her clearly for the first time. Sometimes those two things are the same. You want me to step aside? I want. She paused, choosing the words carefully. Like you choose which knife to use. The best gift you could give us to Marcus, to me, to this family, would be for you to disappear just for a little while. Let Robert step back into his place. Let us be a family again. Disappear just temporarily. I'm not saying forever. Just give us space. Let Robert and Marcus rebuild. Let us figure out what we might be again. The fairy lights hummed. The snow silence pressed in. Somewhere in the distance, a car started. Someone leaving. Someone going home to a life that made sense. You want me to disappear? I said slowly, tasting each word. From the wedding I'm paying for, from the house I bought, from the family I've supported for 3 years. We'll pay you back. She said it quickly, as if she'd rehearsed this part. In time, when Robert's on his feet, when things are settled, the house. You can have the house. I'll move out. We'll split everything fairly. Fairly. I almost laughed. I would have laughed if laughing didn't require breath and breath didn't require your chest not to be collapsing inward like a dying star. I know this is hard, Caroline said, and she actually reached out to take my hand. I pulled away. I know you love Marcus, but you have to understand. He's not yours. He was never really yours, and now his real father is back, and that changes everything. Not yours. Never really yours. I thought about Marcus at 10, crying in my arms after his little league team lost the championship. I thought about teaching him to drive, to code, to negotiate his first salary. I thought about the late-night talks about girls and purpose and what it means to be a good man. I thought about every birthday, every graduation, every single moment I had shown up. And Caroline was right. He wasn't mine. Not by blood, not legally. I'd never adopted him, though I'd wanted to. Caroline had said it wasn't necessary, that love was enough, that paperwork was just a formality. Love was enough until it wasn't. So what's the plan? I asked. My voice had gone flat, emotionless, survival mode. I recognized it from my divorce 15 years ago, from burying my father, from every single moment that life had shown me its teeth. I just leave tonight. Maybe not tonight, but tomorrow. Maybe you could say you have a business emergency. Something urgent came up. You have to fly out. You're so sorry, but it can't be helped. She was warming to the story now, building the lie in real time. That way Marcus won't feel abandoned. He'll understand. He knows how important your work is. Important enough to fund his life, not important enough to earn me a place in it. And after the wedding, we'll figure it out. A separation, maybe. We can tell people it was mutual, that we grew apart. No one has to know the real reason. Which is, she looked at me with something almost like pity. That I married you for the wrong reasons. That I thought security was the same as love. That I mistook gratitude for something deeper. A pause. I'm sorry, I really am. You're a good man. You deserve someone who loves you the way you deserve to be loved. The cruelty of it was how kind she tried to make it sound. As if she was doing me a favor. As if this was an act of mercy instead of a murder. I need to think, I said. The wedding's tomorrow at 4. If you're going to be gone, it has to be before noon, so Robert has time to step in. Right? Mustn't inconvenience Robert. Please, don't be bitter. This is hard on everyone. Everyone. I finally laughed. A sound like glass breaking. Yeah, this must be very hard on you. On Robert. On Marcus, who's apparently been rebuilding a relationship with his real father for 3 weeks without mentioning it to me. Very hard on everyone. I didn't want to hurt you. Well, mission accomplished. Caroline flinched. I never swore in front of her, but then she'd never asked me to disappear from my own life before, so we were both breaking new ground. I should go, I said. Check into my hotel. Tomorrow's a big day. You're staying in a hotel. It seemed appropriate to give you and Marcus space. That's what you wanted, right? Space. I walked back through the barn without looking at Marcus, without saying goodbye, without any of the rituals that mark normal endings, because this wasn't a normal ending. Normal endings have logic, have reasons that make sense in the light of day. This was a wipe. The drive back to the city was 40 minutes. I didn't turn on the radio. I just drove through the darkness with my hands on the wheel at 10 and 2, breathing in, breathing out, staying in my lane. The basics, the hotel was a decent, not the luxury resort where the wedding party was staying. I'd paid for that too, but a clean chain hotel near the highway, the kind of place people sleep before they move on to something better. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and finally let myself feel it. The betrayal, the humiliation, the particular pain of being told you're replaceable by someone who's already replaced you once. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Hey, amazing rehearsal dinner. You're the best. Can't wait for tomorrow. Love you, man. Love you, man. 3 weeks. He'd been reconnecting with Robert for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of secret meetings and healing conversations. And not once had he mentioned it. Not once had he said, "Hey, there's something you should know." I stared at that text for a long time. Then I opened my banking app. The wedding was costing $147,000. The venue, the caterer, the flowers, the photographer, the band, the hotel rooms, all of it. I'd paid 70% of it up front, with the remainder due tomorrow morning. The house Caroline and I owned, the 4-bedroom colonial with the finished basement and the kitchen I'd renovated last year. I'd bought it for cash. My name on the deed. No mortgage. Marcus's college loans, which I'd paid off as a wedding gift last month, $67,000. The car I'd bought Caroline for our anniversary, $2,000. 3 years of supporting a family that wasn't mine. 3 years of playing the part of husband and father, apparently just as an understudy for the real star's return. I looked at my bank accounts, the investments and the assets and the accumulated wealth of a lifetime spent building something solid. Money I'd earned, money I'd saved, money I'd managed carefully with good decisions and long hours. And the kind of discipline that comes from growing up with nothing. Money that had bought me a place in a family that was never really mine. The hotel room smelled of industrial cleaner and other people's sleep. I lay on top of the covers, still in my suit, and watched the ceiling fan turn and turn. Perpetual motion that was going nowhere. My phone buzzed again. "Caroline, thank you for understanding. I know this isn't easy. Are you doing the right thing?" The right thing. I thought about that phrase. The right thing. It implied there was a wrong thing, an opposite, a choice. But what was the wrong thing here? Staying where I wasn't wanted. Fighting for a family that had already erased me from the story. Or maybe the wrong thing was to disappear as she asked. To erase myself to make room for a man who had his chance and blew it. To make it easy for them to pretend I'd never mattered at all. At 2:33 a.m., I made a decision. If Caroline wanted me to disappear, I would disappear, but I would do it my way completely thoroughly. The kind of disappearance that couldn't be undone with an apologetic phone call or a promise to pay me back someday. I'd spent 3 years building their dreams. Now I would spend one night dismantling them, and what I would leave behind would be something they would never forget. The good thing about being a software engineer, a successful one, the kind who sells his company for enough money to retire at 45, is that you understand systems, you understand how things are connected, you understand that every action has a reaction, every input produces an output, and every system, no matter how complex, can be reverse engineered. Marriage, I had learned, was just another system, and I was about to perform the most elegant debugging of my life. At 3:02 a.m., I was still awake, still dressed, still staring at the ceiling of that hotel room with its water-stained tiles and the vague smell of cigarettes no amount of industrial cleaning could ever completely remove. My phone was glowing on the bedside table, a rectangle of blue light in the darkness, notifications piling up like accusations I wasn't ready to face. But I wasn't looking at my phone. I was looking at my laptop, at the spreadsheets I'd kept meticulously for 3 years, because that's what careful people do. They document, they track, they keep the receipts, even when love tells them receipts aren't necessary. Especially when love tells them receipts aren't necessary. The house, $680,000, purchased for cash 18 months ago. My name on the deed solely. Caroline had wanted to be added, but my lawyer, bless his paranoid heart, had suggested we wait until after 5 years of marriage. Just to be safe, he'd said. You'd be surprised how many second marriages don't make it past the 5-year mark. I'd thought he was being cynical. It turned out he was being realistic. The renovations Caroline had insisted on, $7,000. The kitchen with its Italian marble countertops and custom cabinetry. The master bathroom with the rainforest shower and the heated floor. The finished basement with the home theater system. Marcus loved all of it. Documented, receipted, tracked. Marcus's college loans, $7,000, paid in full 4 weeks ago. I wanted to wait until after the wedding, space it out, but Caroline had insisted it would be the perfect, early wedding gift. Now I understood why the timing was important. Robert was coming back. Better extract the maximum value before the replacement arrived. The wedding, $17,000 in total. $103,000 already paid. $44,000 due tomorrow morning at 9:01 a.m. per the contract I'd signed 6 months ago when Marcus and Sophie got engaged. 6 months ago when I was still family, when I was still dad, when my money was our money and my dreams were their dreams. I opened a new spreadsheet, titled it Project Disappearance. Because if you're going to dismantle your life, you might as well organize it properly. Column A, Asset. Column B, Current Status. Column C, Action Required. Column D, Timeline. Column E, Notes. I started typing. The wedding venue had a cancellation policy. I'd read it thoroughly 6 months ago, the way I read all contracts, because my father had taught me that the devil's in the details. Cancellations more than 90 days out, full refund minus a 10% administrative fee. 30 to 90 days, 50% refund. Less than 30 days, no refund. Less than 24 hours. Well, that wasn't even in the contract. That was uncharted territory. That was scorched earth. But there was a loophole. There's always a loophole. The contract stated that if the venue became unavailable due to circumstances outside the venue's control, they would refund all payments and assist in finding an alternate location in what constituted circumstances outside the venue's control. I scrolled through the contract, found it on page 7, clause 14, subsection C, including, but not limited to acts of God, infrastructure failure, loss of necessary permits, or licensing or violation of health and safety codes requiring immediate shutdown. Infrastructure failure. I smiled for the first time in hours. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who has just found the thread that will unravel everything. At 4 a.m., I sent an email to the county health inspector's office, anonymous and untraceable, sent from a VPN routed through servers in 3 different countries. The kind of email I'd learned to send in my cybersecurity days before I built my company, when I was just some kid from nowhere teaching himself how to be invisible online. The email detailed concerns about the wedding venue's septic system, specifically about potential groundwater contamination due to improper waste management, about the odor I'd noticed during the rehearsal dinner, about the visible pooling of water near the outdoor restrooms, about my genuine concern that 200 people might be at risk for exposure to E. coli or something worse. Was any of it true? I had no idea, but I knew how bureaucracy worked. I knew that the words potential health risk, 200 people, and groundwater contamination would trigger an automatic inspection. And I knew that health inspectors don't wait until after the wedding to check things out. I scheduled the email to be sent at 6:01 a.m. early enough to catch the morning shift, late enough that no one could do anything about it before the inspection happened. Then I moved on to the next item on my list. The house was trickier. You can't just sell a house overnight. Real estate doesn't work that way. There are listings, showings, offers, inspections, and closing periods. There's a process, and the process takes time. Unless you don't care about getting full value. Unless you're willing to take a loss in exchange for speed. Unless you know people who buy houses the way other people buy groceries, fast, cash, no questions asked. I knew someone. His name was Martin Chun, and he bought distressed properties for investment firms. We'd worked together on a commercial real estate deal 5 years ago. He was the kind of guy who could close a deal in 72 hours if the price was right. I texted him at 4:15 a.m. I need to sell a house fast. Clean title, no mortgage, valued at $680K. I'll take $500K cash. Can you close by Monday? In California, it was only 1:15 a.m. Martin was a late worker. His reply came back in 3 minutes. You okay? No, but I will be. Can you do it? Send me the address. I'll have someone look at it in the morning. If it checks out, I can have the paperwork ready by Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon. Tomorrow, the wedding day. That wasn't going to happen. Do it. I sent him the address. Our address. The house where Caroline had hung pictures of us on every wall arranged just so, telling a story of happiness to anyone who visited. The house where Marcus had stayed in the guest room during college breaks, where we'd hosted Thanksgiving last year, where I'd believed I was building something permanent. Next, the car, the BMW I'd bought Caroline for our 2nd anniversary, the one she'd cried over, throwing her arms around my neck and saying, "You're too good to me. I don't deserve you." She was right. She didn't. The car was in her name, my gift to her, but the insurance was in my name. I'd paid for the full year another $400 I'd never see again. I couldn't take it back, but I could cancel the insurance effective immediately. Let her figure out how to drive it legally. I made a note. Cancel insurance. 9 a.m. tomorrow. The credit cards were easier. I had 4 cards in my name on which I'd added her as an authorized user. Combined limit of $150,000. Current balance, mostly from wedding expenses and her shopping trips. I could remove her as an authorized user with a single phone call. Note: remove Caroline from all credit cards. 9 a.m. tomorrow. The joint checking account was the simplest math of all. I put my money into it every month like clockwork. She spent it with equal reliability. Current balance, $7,000. By law, as a joint account holder, I could withdraw every last penny. And I would. Note: withdraw all funds from joint checking. 8 a.m. tomorrow before the final wedding payment was due. But that wasn't enough. None of it was enough because money was just money and taking it back was just arithmetic. What I wanted, what I needed was for them to understand, to really understand what they had done, what they had lost, who they had thrown away. I needed to leave them a message they couldn't ignore. At 5 a.m., I opened a new document and I started to write. The words came fast, like water through a broken dam, like truth through broken teeth. Dear Caroline, you asked me to disappear. You said the best gift I could give your family would be my absence. You said I wasn't really part of this family, that I never was. That blood is what matters, and I'll never have that connection no matter how many years I invest or how much I love you both. You were right about one thing. I'm going to disappear, but I'm taking my gifts with me. Consider this letter my wedding gift to Marcus. The truth he deserves to know about the mother who raised him and the stepfather who loved him. 3 years ago, I met you at that charity gala. You were beautiful, charming. You told me about your son, about raising him alone, about how hard it was, but how worth it he was. You told me about your ex-husband, the alcoholic gambler who'd abandoned you both. You cried in my arms on our 3rd date and said you'd finally found someone who understood what real love meant. I believed you. When we got married, you said you didn't want anything from me except my love. You said money didn't matter, that you'd been poor and happy before, and you could be again. You said what mattered was family, building something real together. I believed that too, so I paid your mother's medical bills. $43,000. You cried and called me a hero. I bought us a house. $680,000. You said it was our dream home, our forever place. I paid Marcus's college loans. $7,000. You said I was the father he'd always deserved. I funded his lifestyle, the car, the apartment, the spending money, the emergency credit card that racked up $18,000 in charges over 2 years. I paid for his wedding. $147,000 for a celebration of love, family, and forever. And last night you told me I was never really family. So here is my disappearing act. The house is sold. By the time you read this, I will have signed the papers with a cash buyer. You have until Monday at 5 p.m. to vacate. Everything inside is yours to keep. I'm not taking anything but my clothes and my personal items. Consider it my last gift. The furniture, the TV, the kitchen appliances you picked out, all of it. Enjoy them in your next home. The wedding is canceled. You've probably gotten a call from the venue by now. There was an unfortunate issue with a health inspection. The property has been temporarily shut down. Your deposits are being refunded to my account, which is no longer accessible to you. The joint account is empty. I withdrew my money this morning. All of it. The credit cards are canceled. Well, not canceled, just your authorization to use them. Your car insurance has been terminated. The car is still yours, but you'll need to arrange for your own coverage before you drive it again. I've transferred the final payment on Marcus's apartment lease through the end of this month directly to his landlord. After that, he's on his own. He has his real father now. I'm sure Robert will be happy to help. You wanted me to disappear to make room for Robert, so I'm giving you what you asked for. Completely, permanently, irrevocably. I don't do this to hurt you, though I know it will. I don't do this for revenge, though I know it will feel like it. I do this because you taught me an important lesson last night, that I was never really part of your family, that I was always just the ATM with arms, the checkbook with a heartbeat, the solution to your problems until a better solution came along. You wanted the real father back? Here he is. Let's see how much he's changed. Let's see if his sobriety lasts longer than his need to be the hero. Let's see if his good job covers what mine did. I hope it works out. I honestly do, because Marcus deserves better than what you both did to me. He deserves parents who teach him that love isn't transactional, that family isn't disposable, that people aren't replaceable like broken appliances. Maybe Robert will teach him that. Maybe you will. Maybe you'll both become better people through this experience. Or maybe you'll finally understand what you lost when you asked me to disappear. I'll be gone by the time you read this. Don't try to find me. Don't call. Don't text. Don't email. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce proceedings. Everything will be handled properly, legally, and fairly, just like you wanted. You said I deserve someone who loves me the way I deserve. You were right about that too. That person was never you. Goodbye, Caroline. Tell Marcus I'm sorry to miss his wedding. Tell him I hope he builds a better marriage than ours. Tell him love should be a gift given freely, not a transaction with an expiration date. Tell him his real family is whoever shows up when it matters. And tell Robert, congratulations, he won. He gets his family back, and it only cost him nothing. Must be nice, David. I read it 3 times, edited it twice, made it sharper, kinder in places, crueler in others. I made it true. Then I printed it out at the Hotel Business Center at 5:30 a.m. 2 copies, one for Caroline, one for Marcus. I would leave them at the house, on the kitchen counter. The kitchen I had paid for under the pendant lights she had picked out next to the coffee maker I'd bought her last Christmas, because she'd mentioned once that she always wanted an espresso machine. The coffee maker she would use tomorrow morning when she woke up expecting to get ready for her son's wedding. The coffee she would drink while she read the letter that would destroy it all. The sun was starting to come up Friday morning, February. The day before the wedding that wasn't going to happen. I had 14 hours to dismantle 3 years of my life. I ordered a coffee from the hotel lobby, extra large, black. The kind of coffee you drink when sleep isn't an option and there's work to be done. The barista, a tired-looking woman with kind eyes, asked if I wanted anything to eat. No, I said I'm good. She looked at me with that particular concern that service workers develop for customers who are very obviously not good. Tough night, tough life. I tried to smile. It probably looked like a grimace, but it's about to get better. At 6:01 a.m. my scheduled email went out to the health inspector. At 6:47 a.m. Martin texted. Drove by the house. It's perfect. I can have a mobile notary there at noon. Bring your ID and the deed. We'll close today, if you're serious. I was serious. At 7:30 a.m., I drove to the house. My house. Our house. The last time I would ever have anything to do with it. Caroline's car wasn't there. She'd stayed at the Venue Hotel with Marcus, getting ready for today, for the wedding, for her triumphant reunion with Robert. They probably all had breakfast together this morning. One big happy family. The real family, the blood family. I went inside. The house was quiet, filled with morning light and the ghosts of better days. The pictures on the walls smiled at me, lying pictures of happy moments that had apparently meant more to me than anyone else. I walked through each room. I didn't say goodbye to anything. I didn't feel anything. That was the strangest part. How empty I felt. Not sad, not angry, just empty, like I'd already disappeared and I was watching someone else walk through someone else's life. In my office, I packed a box with my important documents. Birth certificate, passport, deed to the house, stock certificates. The wreckage of my identity reduced to paper in a cardboard box. In the bedroom, I packed a suitcase, enough clothes for a week. Everything else could be replaced. In the kitchen, I left the letters, 2 white envelopes on the marble countertop, Caroline, written on one in my neat handwriting, Marcus on the other. And next to the letters, I left one more thing, a thumb drive. On that thumb drive, every receipt, every bank statement, every transaction, every payment, every gift. 3 years of financial records organized, documented, and irrefutable. A spreadsheet titled The Cost of Being Family. They wanted me to disappear as if I'd never mattered. I would leave them proof that I was the only thing that had ever mattered. At 8:47 a.m., I was sitting in a coffee shop 3 blocks from the bank, watching the clock on my phone tick toward 9:01. My hands were steady around the paper cup, a dark roast coffee with a pretentious name I'd already forgotten. But my heart was doing something complicated in my chest, not racing, not calm, something in between, a rhythm that felt like a countdown. The coffee shop was the kind of place Caroline would have loved. Exposed brick walls, succulents in ceramic pots. A chalkboard menu with drinks named after emotions. The Serenity with band and oat milk. The Awakening with 4 shots of espresso and your choice of existential crisis. I'd ordered the departure. Black coffee, nothing added, nothing to soften it. Two teenagers were sitting by the window, sharing headphones, laughing at something on a phone. An old man was reading a newspaper. Real paper. Real news. Something simple that smoldered. A woman in yoga pants was typing furiously on a laptop, her face a mask of concentration. Normal people having normal mornings, completely unaware that 3 blocks away, I was about to commit financial homicide. My phone buzzed. Martin, notary's on standby. He can meet you at the property at noon. Are you sure about the price? I can probably get you $550K and you give me until Wednesday. I replied, need it done today. $500K. Okay. It's your call. See you at noon. He had no idea how accurate that metaphor was. At 8:55 a.m., I left the coffee shop. The February morning was bright and bitter, the kind of cold that makes your eyes water and your breath visible. I walked the 3 blocks to the bank with my hands in my pockets, watching my breath disappear into nothing with every exhale. The bank was marble and glass with that particular hush that comes with old money and new security systems. I'd been a customer here for 20 years. They knew me, they trusted me. They'd never given me a reason to doubt that my money was safe with them. Now I was about to teach them a lesson about trust. Morning, Mr. Kurz. The teller, a young woman named Amanda, whose name tag always made me think of a girl I'd known in high school, smiled with professional warmth. How can I help you today? I need to make a withdrawal from my joint checking account. I slid my ID across the counter. All of it, her smile didn't waver, but something shifted in her eyes. The look people get when they realize they're witnessing something irregular. All of it refers to the entire balance. Yes, that's right. Let me just verify the balance. She typed, clicked, typed again. It's $7,419. That's a rather large withdrawal. Mr. Kurz, may I ask what form you'd like it in? Check. Wire transfer. Cashier's check. In my name, of course. More typing. A pause. I just need to verify. This is a joint account with Caroliners. Does she know about this withdrawal? She knows I'm going to disappear, I said. It's what she wanted. Amanda blinked. I'm sorry. Never mind. Jacob, can you please process the withdrawal? Of course. Just give me one moment. She disappeared into the back. I stood at the counter watching the other customers conduct their normal banking transactions. A man depositing a check, a woman asking about mortgage rates, everyone building their lives, one transaction at a time. Amanda came back with a manager, a man in his 50s with silver hair and the careful expression of someone trained to handle difficult situations. Mr. Kurz, I'm Robert Henley, the branch manager. He held out his hand. I shook it. Amanda tells me you're withdrawing the full balance from your joint account. That's correct. May I ask if there's a problem with our service? Anything we could have done better? Your service is fine. This isn't about the bank. I see. He didn't see anything. It's just that with joint accounts, we like to ensure both parties are aware of large transactions. It's policy to protect everyone involved. The account is in my name and my wife's. I have the legal right to withdraw any amount I choose. Is that correct? A pause. That's correct. Then please process the withdrawal. Robert Henley's mouth tightened slightly. Of course, Amanda will take care of it. I just wanted to make sure everything was in order. Everything is in perfect order. It took them 15 minutes to process it. 15 minutes of typing and printing and verifying. And that particular tension that comes when everyone knows something is wrong, but no one can say exactly what. Amanda handed me the cashier's check with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Is there anything else we can help you with today? Yes. I need to remove Caroline Kurz as an authorized user from these credit card accounts. I handed her a list I'd prepared. 4 cards, 4 account numbers. Effective immediately. Her smile finally broke. Mr. Kurz, perhaps you should speak with your wife before I spoke with her last night. She was very clear about what she wanted. I'm just following her instructions. They called another manager. More questions, more carefully worded concerns. More are you sure about this couched in professional banking language. But in the end, they had to do what I asked. The cards were in my name. The accounts were mine. Caroline had been added as a convenience, as a gift, as an expression of trust. Trust is easy to give. It's taking it back that requires paperwork. At 9:47 a.m., I was back in my car. A cashier's check for $47,419.16 in my wallet and 4 credit cards that no longer worked for Caroline. Step 1, complete. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call, Another unknown number. I turned the phone off completely. At 10:15 a.m., I was in a lawyer's office. Not my usual lawyer. Too much risk of him trying to talk me out of this. But a lawyer I'd found online at 3 a.m. Kenneth Bricks, specialist in family law and rapid dissolution. His website promised fast, discreet, and effective service for those who needed to turn pages quickly. The typo in discreet should have been a red flag, but I wasn't looking for quality, I was looking for speed. His office was in a strip mall, between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. The waiting room smelled of artificial lemon and old magazines. Kenneth Bricks himself was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with an aggressive handshake and a suit that was trying too hard. "Mr. Kurz, thanks for coming in on such short notice." He gestured to a chair across from his desk, which was mostly empty except for a laptop and a framed picture of him, shaking hands with someone I didn't recognize. "Mentioned on the phone that you need to file for divorce today." "That's correct. May I ask why the urgency?" "My wife asked me to disappear from her family. I'm complying with her request." Kenneth blinked, then he laughed. A sharp bark of a sound. "Well, that's direct. How long have you been married?" 3 years. "Any children in common?" "No. She has a son from a previous marriage. He's 25. Are you coming?" "A house currently in the process of being sold. It should close on Monday in both of your names." "Just mine." "Good. That simplifies things." He opened his laptop and started typing. "California is a no-fault state, so we don't need to prove anything except irreconcilable differences. No children in common and a clear separation of assets. We can move fast. I can have the papers filed by Monday morning. She'll be served by Tuesday." "Perfect. Now she may contest the division of assets. The house, even if it's in your name, could be considered community property depending on when it was bought and with what funds. I bought it 18 months ago with money I had before the marriage. I have the documentation even better. And alimony, what about it? You can request it if she's been financially dependent on you during the marriage. She has been completely. But I don't care." I leaned forward. "I want this done fast and clean. Whatever it takes to finalize it quickly. If she wants alimony, let her have it. 6 months, a year, whatever. I just want it to be over." Kenneth looked at me with something like respect. "Most people fight for every penny. I'm not most people, and this isn't about the money. It's always about the money." "No," I said. "Sometimes it's about the principle. Sometimes it's about making sure someone understands exactly what they threw away." He studied me for a moment. "You're going to make someone very nervous, Mr. Kurz." "Good, that's the point." We spent the next hour filling out forms. Pages and pages of them, reducing 3 years of marriage to check boxes and tick marks. Date of marriage, date of separation, assets, debts, requests. Each question was a small violence, a paper cut in the shape of a life that was ending. "There's one more thing," Kenneth said as I signed the last form. "You should know that California has a mandatory 6-month waiting period before a divorce is finalized. Even if she doesn't contest anything, even if you're in complete agreement, you'll still be legally married for at least 6 more months. But separated. Yes, legally separated as of today, once we file these papers. That's fine. I don't need it to be final. I just need it to be started." At 11:30 a.m., I left Kenneth Bricks's office with copies of the divorce papers in a manila envelope. The sun was higher now, warming the February air, melting last night's snow into puddles that reflected the sky. Everything seemed cleaner in the daylight. Everything seemed possible. My phone was still off. I didn't want to know what was happening. Not yet. There was still work to do. At 11:45 a.m., I arrived at the house. My house? Our house. The house that would belong to Martin Chun by this evening. I found his car already in the driveway. He was on the porch on his phone, dressed in jeans and a leather jacket that probably cost more than Caroline's car insurance. He saw me and ended his call. "David, you look like hell." "I feel like hell, but hell has a fine clarity to it." Martin laughed. "Whatever you say, man." I brought the notary. He's inside taking a look at the place. "I've got the paperwork ready. $500,000 cash transfer. We can have it in your account by the end of the day. Make it Monday. I'll be out of state by then." "Where are you going?" "Does it matter?" "I guess not." He pulled out a thick folder of documents. I had my people run the title. "Everything looks clean, no liens or encumbrances." "Did you really buy this place for cash?" "I did." "Nice, I'll say." The notary was a woman in her 60s with reading glasses on a chain and the efficient air of someone who has witnessed too many signatures to be impressed by anything. She verified my ID, walked me through the paperwork, explained what I was signing in the practiced cadence of someone reciting a script. Do you understand that by signing these documents you are transferring full ownership of the property located at 1247 Meadowbrook into Investment Properties LLC for the sum of $500,000? I understand. And you're doing this of your own free will, without duress or coercion. I almost laughed. No duress. As if anything about the last 12 hours had been free from pressure. Yes, of my own free will. Then, sign here, here, and initial here. I signed, initialed, signed again. Each signature was an amputation, removing another piece of the life I had built. The house where I had been happy, the home I had believed in forever. It took 30 minutes. 30 minutes to undo 18 months. 30 minutes to turn permanence into past tense. When it was done, Martin shook my hand. Pleasure doing business with you. Sorry it had to be under these circumstances. Are you? What? Are you actually sorry, or is that just something people say? He considered. I don't know what happened to you, David. But whatever it was, it must have been bad. So yeah, I'm sorry. No one sells a house like this unless they're running from something or toward something. Take care of yourself. Okay, I'll try. I had an hour before Caroline would be back at the house, an hour before she'd walk into the kitchen and find the letters, an hour before everything detonated. I walked through the house one last time. The living room with its custom bookshelves, still filled with books Caroline had never read, but insisted we display. The dining room with the 8-person table where we'd hosted exactly 2 dinner parties in 3 years. The master bedroom with the quinces bed and the memory foam mattress Caroline had said would be life-changing. It was just a house, just walls and floors and furniture arranged in ways that suggested happiness. But for a while I'd believed in it. I'd believed in all of it. In the office I took one last thing. A picture from my desk drawer. Not a picture of Caroline, not a picture of Marcus. A picture of my father taken 6 months before he died. He was standing in front of the hardware store he'd owned for 40 years. Wearing his work shirt with Van embroidered over the pocket, smiling his quiet smile. My father had taught me everything about being a man except how to recognize when people were using you. He believed in hard work, keeping your word, and taking care of your family. It would have broken his heart what Caroline had done, or maybe he would have seen it coming. Maybe I was the only one blind enough not to. I tucked the picture into my jacket pocket along with the cashier's check, the divorce papers, and the deed that was no longer mine. At 12:47 p.m., I closed the door to 1247 Meadowbrook for the last time. I dropped the keys through the mail slot, and I walked to my car without looking back. Because that's the thing about disappearing. You can't do it halfway. You can't leave a foot in the door. You have to commit. You have to walk into the unknown and trust that whatever is on the other side has to be better than what you left behind. My phone was still off. The wedding was in 3 hours and 13 minutes. The venue had probably called by now. The health inspector had probably shown up. The carefully constructed dream was probably already falling apart. And I was about to fall apart with it, but not yet. Not here. Not where anyone could see me. I drove to the airport. I booked a ticket on my phone. First flight out. Didn't care where it was going. Turned out to be Phoenix. I'd never been to Phoenix. I didn't know anyone there. I had no reason to go. Perfect. The flight left at 3:47 p.m. I would be 30,000 feet in the air when the wedding was supposed to start. When Marcus would be standing at the altar waiting for a bride who would never arrive. When Caroline would realize that disappearing meant more than just not showing up. It meant taking everything with you. At 2:15 p.m., I was sitting at an airport bar drinking a scotch that tasted like smoke and regret, watching the planes take off outside the window, each one carrying people toward something. Reunions, vacations, business, new beginnings. I was carrying myself toward nothing, toward the absence of everything I had built, toward the space that's left when you remove yourself from your own life. My phone buzzed. It was still off, but the vibration motor still worked. Someone was trying to reach me. Several someones. The messages were piling up like snow, covering everything, making it impossible to see the ground. I ordered another scotch. The bartender, a man with tattoo sleeves and the tired eyes of someone who's heard too many airport stories, poured it without comment. Tough day, tough life, but it's about to get better. You say that like you mean it. I'm trying to. He nodded. Sometimes trying is enough. Sometimes it's all we've got. At 3:15 p.m., I boarded the plane. I found my seat 17B window. I always chose window seats. I liked watching the world shrink. I liked the perspective that came with altitude. The plane filled up around me. A businessman in 17A, already on his laptop. A woman in 17, already asleep. Normal people living normal lives, flying to Phoenix for normal reasons, and me flying to nowhere for the worst reason of all. The plane pushed back from the gate at 3:42 p.m., 5 minutes early. A small miracle of modern aviation. At exactly 4 p.m. As the plane took off, as the ground fell away, as I watched the city shrink into geometry and toy cars and the clean abstraction of distance, my phone received 17 text messages, 9 voicemails, and 3 emails, all at once. When I finally turned it on to enable airplane mode, I didn't read any of them, didn't listen to any of them, just watched the notifications pile up. Each one a small detonation, each one marking the moment someone discovered what I had done. The sun was setting over California, painting everything gold and red. The colors of endings, the colors of fire. Down there, somewhere in all that distance, Caroline was reading my letter. Marcus was learning what his mother had done. Robert was discovering what he had won, and I was 30,000 feet above it all, drinking tiny bottles of scotch, watching the sun set on the life I used to have. The man next to me, the businessman, finally looked up from his laptop. First time to Phoenix. First time on the run, I said. He laughed as if I were joking. I let him believe it. The thing about whiskey at altitude is it hits different. The air pressure does something to your blood, to your brain. It makes everything softer around the edges. Or maybe it was just the disappearing. Maybe when you erase yourself from your own life, the world naturally blurs at the boundaries. I was on my third tiny bottle, the kind that costs $1 and contains maybe 2 real swallows. When my phone started buzzing continuously in my pocket, not ringing, I put it on silent, just vibrating like a small animal dying against my thigh. The businessman next to me glanced over. Someone really wants to talk to you. There's always someone. You're not going to answer? No. He nodded and went back to his spreadsheet. That was the beautiful thing about strangers on planes. They didn't require explanations. You could tell them you were running away from your life, and they'd laugh. You could tell them you'd just dismantled a marriage, canceled a wedding, and sold a house in 6 hours, and they'd think you were exaggerating for effect. The buzzing stopped. It started again. It stopped. It started. I pulled out my phone. Airplane mode was on, but I'd connected to the in-flight Wi-Fi. 3 for the privilege of staying connected to the disaster I'd left behind. Masochism in the digital age. The text messages had grown to 47. The voicemails to 15. My email inbox showed 93 unread, though most of those were probably spam and bank notifications. I opened the texts. I didn't read them, just scrolled, watching the names fly by. Caroline, Marcus. Caroline. Unknown number. Marcus. Caroline. 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 Another unknown number. Probably Robert, though I'd never had his number. Caroline's mother. Marcus's fiancée. Sophie. Caroline's sister, Jennifer, whom I'd seen exactly twice and who had never texted me in 3 years. Everyone had opinions now. Everyone had something urgent to say to the man who disappeared. I clicked on the first text from Caroline sent at 1:47 p.m. Where are you? The venue called. They said there's a health inspection. They're shutting it down. Call me right now. 1:53 p.m. David, this isn't funny. They're saying we can't have the wedding here. They're refunding everything to your account. Your account? What did you do? 2:08 p.m. I'm at the house. Where are you? Your clothes are gone. What the hell is going on? 2:01 p.m. I found your letter. Just that. I found your letter. For words that carried the weight of everything breaking at once. Then nothing for 23 minutes. I imagined her reading it again. The words sinking in, the reality dawning. The moment of understanding that I had meant every single word. 2:34 p.m. You sold the house. You can't sell the house. That's my house. We live there. 2:36 p.m. Call me, please. We can fix this. Whatever you think I said, whatever you think I meant, we can talk about it. 2:41 p.m. The bank called me. They said you withdrew all the money. They said you removed me from the credit cards. David, what the hell? 2:47 p.m. Marcus is having a panic attack. His wedding is ruined. His wedding. Deb, how could you do this to him? He never did anything to you. That one made me laugh, a sharp, bitter sound that made the businessman look over again. Marcus never did anything to me, except spend 3 weeks secretly rebuilding a relationship with his real father. Except let his mother orchestrate my removal. Except accept every gift, every payment, every act of love without once wondering if maybe the man paying for it all deserved to know he was about to be replaced. But sure, he never did anything. I kept scrolling. 3:03 p.m. You're not on the passenger list for any of the airports. Where are you? Answer me. How did she check the passenger lists? Then I remembered, her sister Jennifer worked for the TSA. Of course, everyone was getting involved now. Everyone was suddenly very concerned about where I had gone. 3:15 p.m. Robert wants to talk to you. I bet he does. 3:28 p.m. I'm calling your lawyer. This is illegal. You can't just sell a house without your wife's permission. You can't just cancel a wedding. You can't just destroy people's lives because you're having a tantrum. A tantrum. 3 years of my life reduced to a tantrum. I drank the rest of the tiny bottle of scotch and ordered another. 3:41 p.m. Sophie's mother is threatening to sue you for emotional distress. Her daughter is a wreck. 200 people are trying to figure out what to do. The caterer wants to know if they should still prepare the food. The band wants to know if they're still getting paid. The photographer is asking if we want to reschedule. I don't know what to tell anyone because my husband has disappeared and won't answer his phone. Its husband I thought legally separated as of this morning. The papers were probably already in the system. Kenneth Bricks may have been a strip mall lawyer with questionable spelling, but he'd promised speed and he'd delivered. 3:47 p.m. I never said I didn't love you. I stared at that text for a long time. I read it 5, 10 times. I tried to find the truth in it, the sincerity, the thing that would make any of this make sense. I never said I didn't love you. No, she just said I wasn't really family, that blood was what mattered, that the best gift I could give them would be my absence. She'd said everything except I don't love you. As if the specific words were what mattered and not the meaning behind them. As if there was a difference. I scrolled to Marcus's texts. 2:52 p.m. Dude, what's going on? Mom's freaking out. The wedding venue closed. Can you call me? 3:18 p.m. I just read your letter. I don't understand why you're doing this. Why now today? 3:34 p.m. Mom really told you those things about disappearing. It doesn't sound like her. Are you sure you didn't misunderstand? I misunderstood. The best gift you could give us would be to disappear. I misunderstood. He's not yours. He was never really yours. I misunderstood. 3 weeks of secret meetings with his real father. Maybe I did. Maybe I'd spent 3 years misunderstanding everything. 3:56 p.m. Sophie's crying. Her dream wedding is ruined. Her parents flew in from Boston. People are here from all over the country. What am I supposed to tell them? Tell them the truth, I thought. Tell them your mother decided she wanted your real father back. Tell them I was just holding his place until he returned. Tell them love is temporary and family is conditional and money is the only real thing. Tell them anything. It didn't matter anymore. The flight attendant appeared with my 4th scotch. She was older, professional, with a particular kindness in her eyes that comes from years of watching people fall apart midair. Long day, she asked. Long life. Those are the worst. She handed me the bottle and the plastic cup. This one's on me. You look like you need it. That obvious. Honey, I've been doing this for 27 years. I can spot a runaway at 30 rows. Whatever you're running from, I hope wherever you're running to is better. It has to be. Law of averages. She patted me on the shoulder and moved on, dispensing peanuts and sympathy with equal efficiency. I poured the scotch, watched it catch the light. I thought about Caroline finding the thumb drive. Had she found it? Plugged it in, opened the spreadsheet titled The Cost of Being Family. I'd spent 2 hours building that spreadsheet at 3 a.m., organizing 3 years of financial records into something undeniable. Every payment, every gift, every expense categorized, dated, annotated. Row 1. Caroline's mother's medical bills. $3,000. You cried and called me your hero. Row 2. House down payment. $680,000. You said it was our forever home. Row 3. Kitchen renovation. $2,000. You picked out every detail. Row 4. Master bath remodel. $5,000. You said the heated floors were a dream come true. Row 5. Marcus's college loans. $67,000. You said it was the father he'd always deserved. 143 rows. 3 years of documented generosity. 3 years of being family detailed. 3 years of love reduced to a balance sheet. Total $47,082, almost $1 million. That's what it cost to be family to people who never really considered you family at all. I'd included a note at the end of the spreadsheet. This is not an invoice. You don't owe me anything. This is just so you understand exactly what you threw away when you asked me to disappear. These aren't transactions. They're proof that I was here, that I mattered, that I loved you both enough to give you everything, and you loved me just enough to replace me the moment something better came along. I hope Robert is worth it. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. The scotch had made me bold. David Kurz. Mr. Kurz, this is Robert Mishi, Marcus's father. His voice was deep, confident, the voice of a man who had won something. I think we should talk. There's nothing to talk about. I think there is. I think you're acting out of hurt and anger, and I get that, but you're hurting innocent people. Marcus didn't do anything to you. Sophie didn't do anything to you. 200 wedding guests didn't do anything to you. I know. I'm the villain in this story, the guy who ruined everything. I laughed. That's funny. Last night, I was the hero. This morning, I'm the villain. Must be some kind of record. Could you fix this? You could. Could what? Unsell the house. Unwithdraw the money. Magically uncancel the wedding or wait. Do you want me to pay for everything again? That's true. You want me to fund the wedding so you can play father of the groom? Silence. Then that's not fair. You're right. What's fair is you abandoned your son for 18 years. You missed every important moment of his life, and now you waltz back in like nothing happened and take credit for the man he became. That's fair. What's unfair is I paid for him to become that man and got discarded for my trouble. Caroline made a mistake. She knows that now. She was confused, emotional. She was clear. She was the clearest she's ever been. She told me exactly what she wanted, and I'm giving it to her. I'm disappearing completely, permanently. Isn't that what you all wanted? Not like this. Let me ask you something, Robert. Do you know how much Marcus's college loans were? What? Why does that matter? Just answer the question. Do you know? I don't know. 50,000, 60, 67,000. I paid them off last month. Do you know why? Silence. Because Caroline said it would be the perfect early wedding gift. Because I wanted to. Because I thought we were family. Do you know how much I've spent on your son in 3 years, Mr. Kurz? Over $800,000. That's what it cost me to be his father. $800,000. What did it cost you? It didn't. It didn't cost you a thing. You showed up 3 weeks ago, sober and employed and ready to play dad, and everyone acted like you were the second coming of Christ. Meanwhile, I'm the asshole for wanting acknowledgement, for wanting to matter, for thinking that love and money and showing up every single day should count for something. Are you twisting this? I'm clarifying it. I'm simplifying it. You won. Congratulations, you get your family back, and it only cost me everything. That's a good deal for you. I hung up. I turned my phone off completely. I took the battery out for good measure. Old phone. One of the few that still allowed it. I didn't want to hear from anyone. I didn't want to know what they were saying or thinking or feeling. I wanted to disappear into the silence, into the altitude, into the anonymous darkness outside the window. The businessman looked over. Everything all right. Define all right. Good point. He closed his laptop. Do you want to talk about it? Do you not want to not talk about it together? I looked at him. Really looked at him. He was in his 50s. Wearing a wedding ring with a particular weariness around his eyes that came from caring about things. A good man, probably a faithful husband. Someone who showed up. Have you ever been replaced? I asked. At work. Sure, twice. Once by a younger guy who worked for half my salary. Once by a computer program. How did it feel? Like shit, as if everything I had done didn't matter, as if I were disposable. He paused, but then I found something better. Both times, something that actually valued what I brought to the table. And if there isn't something better, then you build it, or you become it, or you sit in the wreckage and let it bury you. Those are pretty much the options. Which one are you? He smiled. Still figuring it out, but I'm 53. I'm flying to Phoenix on a Friday night to look at commercial real estate, so I guess I'm the build it type. Even if the thing I'm building keeps changing. The plane hit turbulence, just a little, enough for the seatbelt sign to ding on. Enough to remind us we were suspended in midair by nothing but physics and faith. I sold my house today, I said. I withdrew all my money, canceled my stepson's wedding. I filed for divorce, and I got on a plane to Phoenix without knowing why. He nodded slowly. Okay, that's That's a lot. Yeah, they deserved it. I don't know. Does anyone deserve anything? Or do we just do things and call it justice and hope we can sleep at night? Deep question for 30,000 feet. It's been a deep day. The flight attendant announced we would be landing in 20 minutes. Outside the window, Phoenix was appearing out of the darkness. A grid of lights in the desert. Proof that humans could build a civilization anywhere if they were stubborn enough. Do you have a place to stay? The businessman asked. Not a clue. There's a decent hotel near the airport. Nothing fancy, but it's clean. Not too expensive. The Sandpiperin. Tell them Jerry sent you. They won't give you a discount, but at least you can say you know someone in Phoenix. Thanks, Jerry. We're all just trying to get through it, you know? Whatever it is. Might as well help each other along the way. The plane descended. My ears popped. The landing gear deployed with a clunk that echoed through the cabin. Below us, Phoenix spread out like spilled light, like possibility, like the opposite of everything I had left behind. We landed at 6:43 p.m. Phoenix time, 7:43 p.m. California time. The wedding would have started 3 hours and 43 minutes ago. The ceremony would have been over by now. People would be drinking at a reception that didn't exist. Or maybe they'd all gone home confused and angry talking about the crazy stepfather who ruined everything. I didn't care. That was the strange thing. I thought I would care. I thought knowing they were suffering would feel like a victory, but it didn't feel like anything. It just felt empty. Maybe that was what disappearing meant. Not just removing yourself from their lives, but removing yourself from your own emotions. Becoming hollow, becoming the absence they'd asked you to be. I got my carry-on bag, just one bag with 3 days worth of clothes and a lifetime of regret, and I walked off the plane into the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. The air conditioning hit me first, then the smell of Cinnabon and desperation that all airports share, then the absolute certainty that I had no idea what I was doing, where I was going, or who I was supposed to be now. Jerry caught up with me at baggage claim. You're going to be okay eventually. Maybe. I don't know. That's honest. At least. He handed me a business card. If you're still in Phoenix on Monday and you need someone to talk to, give me a call. Or if you need a job, I'm always looking for good people. And anyone who can blow up their entire life in 6 hours has the kind of determination I respect or the kind of madness. Sometimes they're the same thing. He walked away into the Phoenix night, into his life, into whatever he was building here. I stood at baggage claim, even though I had no checked bags, and watched people reunite. Families, couples, friends. Everyone had someone. Everyone belonged somewhere, except me. I belonged to the disappearance now, to the space between things, to the life I had chosen when I walked away from the life that didn't want me. At 7:15 p.m., I checked into the Sandpiperin. Jerry was right. It was decent, clean, anonymous. The kind of place where no one asks questions and everyone is running from something. The desk clerk, a young guy with stretched earlobes and a name tag that read Brandon, barely looked at me. How many nights? I don't know. We need at least one night to check you in. Then one night. I'll decide the rest tomorrow. He handed me a key card. Room 237. 3rd floor. Ice machine's broken, but there's a 7-Eleven next door. Checkout's at 11. I took the key in my bag and walked to the elevator. I watched the numbers climb. 1, 2, 3. Each floor, another layer removed from ground level. Another layer removed from reality. Room 237 smelled of cleaning products and sadness. Double bed, television bolted to the wall. Bathroom with a shower tub combo and tiny bottles of shampoo. A window that looked out onto the parking lot. I sat on the bed and looked at my dead phone, the battery separate on the bedside table, the device that connected me to everyone I had left behind. I could turn it on. I could read the rest of the messages. I could call Caroline back. I could fix this, whatever fixing meant. I could apologize. I could negotiate. I could find some middle ground where everyone won a little and lost a little, and we all pretended it was okay. Or I could stay disappeared. I chose disappeared. I lay back on the bed, stared at the ceiling, listened to the sounds of other people's lives through the thin walls, television, conversation, the rhythmic thud of what was either very enthusiastic exercise or very disappointing sex. Somewhere in California, Caroline was figuring out how to explain this to everyone. Marcus was mourning his ruined wedding. Sophie was crying. Robert was probably feeling very heroic, comforting everyone, stepping into the role of patriarch. And I was in Phoenix alone, with no plan and no purpose and nothing but the certainty that I was never going back. The desert night pressed against the window. Dry, hot, alien, perfect. I didn't sleep. That's not entirely true. I drifted in and out of something that resembled sleep, but it was the kind that leaves you more exhausted than staying awake. The kind where you're aware of every sound, every shift of light under the door, every car that pulls into the parking lot at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. The kind where your brain won't stop doing the math. $47,000. 3 years. 192,000 words of I love you. What had Caroline said? 1,095 days of being Marcus's father. 4,368 hours of believing I belonged. The arithmetic of a life reduced to numbers that didn't add up to anything. At 5:47 a.m., I gave up on sleep entirely. I took a shower in water that never got quite hot enough under a shower head that sputtered like it was dying. I dressed in the same clothes I'd worn on the plane. Jeans, a button-down shirt, the jacket with my father's picture still in the pocket. The mirror showed me a stranger. Same face, same eyes, but something fundamental had changed. I looked hollowed out, scoured clean, like someone had reached in and removed all the essential parts, leaving only the shell. This is what disappearing looks like, I thought. This is who you become when you erase yourself. Like someone had reached in and removed all the essential parts, leaving only the shell. This is what disappearing looks like, I thought. This is who you become when you erase yourself. The hotel offered a continental breakfast in a room off the lobby. I went down at 6:15 before the business travelers and the families emerged, before I had to watch other people be normal together. The breakfast was what you'd expect. Watery coffee, waxy pastries, a waffle iron no one had cleaned properly, fruit that had been cut days ago and left to weep in plastic containers. I had coffee and a banana that had already started to brown, and I sat in a corner as far from the door as possible. A television mounted on the wall played the morning news with the sound off. Stock prices scrolling, weather maps, a perky anchor smiling about something. The world was continuing as if yesterday hadn't happened, as if someone's entire life hadn't detonated in 6 hours. My dead phone was on the table next to my coffee. Still disassembled, still silent. The battery, and next to it like an accusation. I could turn it on. I should turn it on. There were probably important messages, legal things, bank things, things that required adult attention and responsible decision-making. But responsibility was what got me here. Responsibility and love and showing up and doing the right thing. 3 years of being responsible had earned me the privilege of being disposable, so screw responsibility. A woman came into the breakfast room. Early 60s, wearing a TSA uniform with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She poured herself coffee, grabbed 2 muffins, and sat 3 tables away. We made the kind of eye contact that strangers make that says, I acknowledge your existence, but I won't intrude on your suffering. She looked tired, night shift tired, been doing this too long tired. The kind of tired I felt in my bones. Long night? She asked after a minute. Long life. She smiled. I know that feeling. Just getting in. Last night from California, business or pleasure? Neither, just away. She nodded as if that made all the sense in the world. Maybe in Phoenix it did. Maybe Phoenix was full of people who had come here just to be away from somewhere else. You picked a good city to disappear into, she said. No one asks too many questions here. Everyone's from somewhere else. Everyone's running from something or towards something. Usually both. You sound like you know what you're talking about. 23 years in Phoenix. I smile. I know that feeling. Just getting in last night from California. Business or pleasure? Neither, just away. She nodded as if that made all the sense in the world. Maybe in Phoenix it did. Maybe Phoenix was full of people who had come here just to be away from somewhere else. You picked a good city to disappear into, she said. No one asks too many questions here. Everyone's from somewhere else. Everyone's running from something or towards something. Usually both. You sound like you know what you're talking about. 23 years in Phoenix. I came here after my divorce. I thought I'd stay 6 months. I'm still here. She took a sip of her coffee. The heat grows on you. The space. The way you can reinvent yourself. And no one cares who you used to be. Who was that? Someone who thought love was enough. Someone who believed in forever. Someone who didn't know that people could just stop loving you for no reason or for reasons they would never tell you. She looked at me. Really looked at me. You have the look. What look? Like someone just explained to you how the world really works and you're not sure you can live in it. I laughed. It came out strangled. That's accurate. Yeah, I thought so. She stood up, gathered her things. A piece of advice from someone who's been through it. Give it time, not to heal. That's bullshit. Time doesn't heal anything, but time to figure out who you are without them, without whatever you were before. That's the hard part, learning how to be a person again. How long did it take you? I'll let you know when I figure it out. She smiled. Good luck with your disappearing. She left. I sat there with my cold coffee and my disassembled phone, and the particular loneliness that comes from knowing that everyone who used to care about you is probably better off without you. At 7:30 a.m., I reassembled my phone. I didn't turn it on. I just put the battery back in, snapped the cover on, made the device whole again. I held it in my hand like a grenade with an uncertain timer. Then I turned it on. The boot-up sequence seemed to take forever. The logo, the loading screen, the home screen appearing with its background photo. A picture of Caroline and me on our wedding day. Both of us smiling like people who didn't know what was coming. I should change that picture. I should have changed it yesterday, but yesterday I was too busy destroying everything to care about phone backgrounds. The notifications started immediately. 127 text messages, 29 voicemails, 156 emails. The phone buzzed continuously for 30 seconds, trying to deliver all the messages at once, trying to force me to acknowledge the mess I'd created. I opened the texts. I started with the most recent and scrolled backward in time, watching the anger evolve. Caroline, 11:47 p.m. last night. I know you're reading this. I know you're ignoring me. Fine, but you should know Marcus is a wreck. Sophie's family is threatening legal action. Her father's a lawyer, a real one. Not whatever discount strip mall attorney you found. You're going to regret this. Marcus, 11:32 p.m. I don't understand why you're doing this. I thought you loved us. I thought we were family. Was it all fake? Were you pretending the whole time? Sophie, 10:58 p.m. You ruined the happiest day of my life. I'll never forgive you. Never hope you die alone. That one at least was honest. No pretense of concern, just pure distilled hatred. I respect that. Caroline, 10:43 p.m. Robert has hired a private investigator. We're going to find you. You can't just disappear. You can't just destroy people's lives and run away. Actually, I could. I had. That was the beautiful thing about America. You could get on a plane and be someone else in 3 hours. More texts, more anger, more variations on the same theme. How could you? How dare you? You're a monster. Are you? Are you cruel? No one asked why. No one said what did we do wrong. No one acknowledged that maybe, just maybe, asking someone to disappear from their own life might have consequences. Then I found one from a number I didn't recognize. Sent at 9:15 p.m. Mr. Kurz. This is Jennifer Harley, Caroline's sister. I don't know if you remember me. We met at Thanksgiving. I want you to know I read your letter, the one you left for Caroline, and I think you should know something. She's been talking to Robert for 6 months, not 3 weeks. 6 months. She lied to you about when he came back. I thought you deserved to know. I'm sorry for what she did to you. You seem like a good man, Jennifer. I read that text 5 times. 6 months, not 3 weeks. 6 months, 6 months of planning, 6 months of secret meetings, 6 months of orchestrating my removal while I paid for Marcus's loans and the wedding and believed we were family. The college loans I'd paid off as an early wedding gift 6 weeks ago. Was that timing a coincidence, or had Caroline meant to extract that final payment before Robert stepped back into his role? The house renovations she'd insisted on finishing in January, the kitchen, the bathroom, the basement theater, making sure everything was perfect before she asked me to leave. The wedding itself, scheduled for February instead of June as Sophie had originally wanted, Caroline had said it was because the venue had a cancellation and it was too good to pass up. But maybe it was because Robert was ready, because the timeline was set, because they needed me out, and this was the deadline. Everything clicked into place. Every decision, every timeline, every single moment I'd thought was love was actually calculation. I'd been played comprehensively, professionally from the beginning. The phone rang. Caroline, I watched it ring. I watched her name flash on the screen over our wedding picture. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again, Marcus. This time again, I let it ring. Then a text from Caroline. I know you're online. I can see you read my messages. Answer the phone. Right now, my first communication since I'd disappeared. 6 months. Jennifer told me. 6 months you were planning this. While I was paying for everything. While I was loving you both. 6 months. The reply came back immediately. It's not what you think. Then explain it. Explain how 6 months of lying is not exactly what it looks like. 3 minutes passed. The dot of her typing appeared and disappeared. Appeared and disappeared. She was writing something, deleting it, writing again, trying to find words that would make this okay. Finally, I was confused. Robert came back, and I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know what to do. I needed time to figure it out. You needed time to make sure he was stable before you discarded me. That's not fair. You're right. What's fair is I supported your family for 3 years while you secretly rebuilt your relationship with your ex. That's definitely fair. We can fix this. Come home. We'll talk. We'll figure it out. There is no home. I sold it. Remember? You have until Monday at 5 p.m. to vacate. Martin Chen owns it now. You can't do that. That's my house. Check the deed. It was never your house. It was mine. I bought it. I paid for it. My name on every document. You just lived there. Like you lived off me. Like I was just the bank account that happened to have feelings. I loved you. No, you loved what I could give you. There's a difference. My coffee had gone cold. The breakfast room had filled up. Families with kids. Business travelers checking phones. A group of what looked like college students on some kind of trip. All of them living their normal Friday morning lives. All of them living in a world where love meant something. Caroline called again. This time I answered. Don't hang up, she said immediately. Please, just listen. I'm listening. You're right about some of it. Robert came back 6 months ago, and yes, I should have told you. But I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know if he was serious, if he'd changed. I was protecting myself, protecting Marcus. From what? From the man who'd been protecting you both for 3 years, from getting hurt again, from trusting too soon. You don't know what it was like when Robert left, what it did to Marcus, what it did to me. You're right, I don't. Because you never told me. You told me he was a drunk and a gambler who abandoned you. You made him sound like a monster. And now he's the hero, and I'm the monster. Funny. How does that work? He changed. He got sober. He went to therapy. He apologized. He wanted to be a father again. And you let him for 6 months, while I paid off Marcus's college loans, while I funded his wedding, while I believed we were family. Did you laugh about it when you were with Robert? Did you laugh about the stupid stepfather who didn't know he was being replaced? We never laughed. Never. It wasn't about hurting you. Then what was it about? Silence. Long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then it was about getting back what I lost. Robert was my first love, the father of my child. We had 15 good years before it all fell apart. And when he came back, sober and stable and wanting to try again, I couldn't just ignore that. I couldn't pretend those 15 years didn't matter. And our 3 years, those didn't matter. They did matter. They matter, but it's not the same. You have to understand. What I understand is that you asked me to disappear. That's what you wanted. That's what you said. The best gift you could give us would be to disappear. Your exact words. So I'm giving you that gift completely. You're welcome. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean forever. I just meant. You meant you wanted me out of the way so Robert could take my place. You wanted me to step aside gracefully to make it easy for you. To erase myself without causing trouble? Well, I'm erased. Mission accomplished. Be wedding. You destroyed Marcus's wedding. Sophie's family didn't pay for any of it. I paid for all of it. The venue, the Caterine, the band, the photographer, the flowers, the cake, everything. So I canceled what I paid for. They're welcome to plan a new wedding. Robert can pay for it. That's what fathers do, right? They pay for their kids' weddings. He has his chance now. He doesn't have that kind of money. Not my problem. You're being cruel. I'm being absent. It's what you asked for. Cruel would be staying. Cruel would be showing up at the wedding and making a scene. Cruel would be telling everyone the truth about why it was canceled. I just disappeared like you wanted. If that feels cruel, maybe you should examine why. I could hear her crying now. Soft, calculated sounds. The crying she did when she wanted something it used to work on me. Used to make me want to fix everything. Make her happy. Be the hero who solved all the problems. Now it just sounded like manipulation. Where are you? She asked. At least tell me that. Tell me you're safe. I'm safe. I'm away. That's all you need to know. Are you coming back? To what? To the house I sold? To the family that's not mine? To the wife who's been planning my replacement for 6 months? No. Caroline, I'm not coming back. What about your things, your furniture, your books? Keep them, sell them, burn them. I don't care, they're just things. Everything important is already gone. Deb, I hung up. I turned the phone off again. I sat in the Santorini breakfast room with my cold coffee and my dismantled life, and I felt absolutely nothing. That was the strangest part. I thought I would feel vindicated, victorious, some kind of satisfaction in making her suffer the way she had made me suffer. But I just felt empty, like I'd won a fight no one wanted to be in, like I'd proven a point that didn't matter. The college students at the next table were laughing at something. One of them, a girl with purple hair and a nose ring, was telling a story about a professor who'd accidentally shared his screen during a Zoom class, and everyone had seen his dating app profile. They were laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world, like life was simple and pain was temporary and love was something that happened to other people. I wanted to be them. I wanted to be young enough to think disasters were funny, that heartbreak was a story you told, that disappearing was something that only happened in movies. But I was 47 in a cheap hotel in Phoenix, staring at my phone like it might explode. And I knew it wasn't. I knew that some disappearances were permanent, that some things that broke stayed broken, that you could love someone completely and still mean nothing to them. That was the arithmetic of absence. It didn't matter how much you gave, how much you loved, how much you showed up. If someone decided you were replaceable, the math didn't matter. $47,000 equals 0 3 years equal to 0 love equal to 0 guide that you don't belong. The only equation that matters is subtraction. At 8:45 a.m., I left the breakfast room, went back to room 237, lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling and tried to figure out who I was now. Not Caroline's husband, not Marcus's stepfather, not the man who paid for everything and thought it meant something. Just David. David Kurz, 47, software engineer, retired, divorced, almost in Phoenix for no reason. A blank page, an empty spreadsheet, a life with all the formulas deleted. Maybe that was what I needed. Maybe you couldn't build something new until you'd completely demolished the old. Maybe disappearing was just the first step in a longer process of becoming someone else. Or maybe I was just rationalizing, making meaning out of pain, because that's what humans do. We tell ourselves stories, we find patterns, we pretend that suffering has a purpose, because the alternative that it's all just random and meaningless, and we're just atoms bouncing around in the dark is too much to bear. My phone buzzed. It was still off, but the vibration motor had somehow kicked in. A glitch, a ghost in the machine, or maybe just physics. Maybe even dead things have echoes. I picked the phone up, held it, put it in the bedside table drawer, closed the drawer. Tomorrow I would figure out what came next. Tomorrow I would make plans. Tomorrow I would start becoming whoever I was supposed to be now. But today I would just be absent. Today I would be exactly what they had asked for. Nothing. Phoenix in February is a strange thing. The rest of the country is shivering and scraping ice off windshields while Phoenix basks in 72 degrees, smug in its perpetual summer. I walked out of the Sandpiper at 9:30 a.m. into a sunshine that felt like an insult. Too bright, too warm, too indifferent to the fact that my life had ended yesterday. The desert doesn't care about your suffering. That was comforting in its own way. I had nowhere to go, no plan, just movement for movement's sake, because staying in that hotel room felt too much like surrender, and I wasn't ready to surrender yet. Or maybe I had already surrendered, and this is what it looked like. Walking aimlessly through a strange city, pretending that motion was the same as progress. The 7-Eleven next door sold coffee that tasted like it had been brewed during a previous geological era. I bought it anyway. I also bought a pack of Marlboro, even though I'd quit smoking 15 years ago. The clerk, a kid who couldn't have been more than 19 with acne scars and dead eyes, didn't ask questions, just scanned the items, took my money, and went back to staring at his phone. I stood in the parking lot and opened the cigarettes. The cellophane crinkled. The smell of fresh tobacco hit me. That particular scent of bad decisions and shorter lifespans. I lit one with a lighter the clerk had included for free, probably because I looked like I needed all the help I could get. The first drag was a burn, a cough. My lungs staging an immediate protest after 15 years of clean living. The second drag went down easier. By the third, I remembered why I'd quit. Not because of the health, but because smoking is a commitment. You can't just smoke casually. You're either a smoker or you're not. There's no in between. Like marriage, I thought, and almost laughed. I smoked the whole cigarette. I let it burn down to the filter. I watched the smoke dissipate into the clean desert air. Then I threw the rest of the pack in the trash. Whatever point I was trying to make, I'd made it. A text notification vibrated in my pocket. I turned the phone back on at some point without consciously deciding to out of muscle memory. The addiction to connectivity that modern life drills into us. Marcus, Dad, please, just talk to me. I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand why you're so angry, Dad. He'd called me Dad maybe a dozen times in 3 years. Usually it was David or Dabe, or on occasion Dude, but now in crisis it was Dad. Now that he needed something, the word appeared. I stared at that text for a long time. I tried to feel something. Anger, grief, the satisfaction of being needed, anything. But I just felt tired. I typed back, "You spent 6 months building a relationship with your real father while I paid for your life. You never mentioned it. Not once. Your mother asked me to disappear so Robert could take my place. I'm just doing what was asked. Why is that so hard to understand?" The dot of his typing appeared immediately. It disappeared. It reappeared. He was struggling with his response. Good. Let him struggle. Let him feel 1/10 of what I felt in that barn, in the cold, hearing that I didn't matter. Marcus, I didn't know Mom was going to say that to you. I swear I didn't. But you knew about Robert. You knew for 6 months, and you never told me. I didn't know how. I didn't want to hurt you. So instead you let your mother do it. Very kind. That's not fair. I was so tired of hearing about what was fair, as if fairness was a real thing, as if the universe operated on principles of justice instead of chaos and coincidence. You want fair? I typed. Fair would be you paying me back the $7,000 I spent on your college loans. Fair would be you funding your own wedding. Fair would be you acknowledging that I was your father for 3 years while you secretly interviewed my replacement. But we don't live in a fair world, Marcus. We live in this one. I never wanted to replace you. You just wanted to add Robert back in. Have 2 dads. Keep the one who pays for everything and get the one who shares your DNA. Best of both worlds. Why didn't I think of that? Why are you being like this? Like what? Honest, clear, unwilling to pretend everything's fine when it's not. I'm sorry. I guess I'm out of practice with pretending. I loved you. I love you. Present tense. That doesn't just go away. I read that text 5 times. I looked for the lie in it, the manipulation, the calculation, but it sounded genuine. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe he did love me in the way that someone can love a person they're willing to replace without notice. Love isn't enough, I typed. Your mother loved me too. She said it all the time. It didn't stop her from planning my exit for 6 months. It didn't stop her from asking me to disappear. Love is just a word people use when they want something from you. That's the most cynical thing I've ever heard. That's the most honest thing you've ever heard. There's a difference. My coffee had gone cold. The sun was getting hotter. A family came out of the 7-Eleven. Parents, 2 kids, all of them with brightly colored slurps that don't exist in nature. The kids were arguing about something. The parents looked exhausted, but they were together. They were a unit. They belonged to each other. I belonged to no one. Another text. Can we just talk on the phone, please? I stared at that text. I imagined the conversation. Marcus would cry. He was good at crying when he wanted something. He would apologize. He would say he never meant to hurt me. He would say Robert showing up was complicated and confusing and he didn't know how to handle it. He would say he still considered me his father. He would say all the right words in the right order and none of it would change anything. No, I typed. I'm done talking. I'm done explaining. I'm done being the adult in a situation where everyone else is behaving like children. You wanted your real father? You have him. I hope he's everything you dreamed of. I turned the phone off. This time I left the battery in, but I put it on airplane mode. A softer disappearance, a way to exist without being reachable. The day stretched out before me, empty, shapeless. Could do anything, go anywhere, be anyone. That was supposed to be liberating. That was supposed to be the gift of starting over, but it just felt like drowning in options. I walked without a destination, just motioned through parking lots and strip malls and residential streets with houses that looked vaguely the same. Spanish Texas roofs, desert landscaping. That particular aesthetic of trying to create civilization in a place that doesn't want it. A church stood on a corner, one of those modern mega-churches with a name like Destiny Fellowship or Boundless Hope, the kind with a coffee shop in the lobby and a pastor who wore jeans and made Jesus sound like a life colonel. The parking lot was empty on a Friday morning. Just maintenance trucks and the lonely promise of Sunday services. I sat on a bench outside the church, not because I was religious. I stopped believing in God around the same time I stopped believing in Santa Claus and fair outcomes. But because it was quiet, because no one would bother me here, because churches are supposed to be sanctuaries, even for people who don't believe in anything. A priest or a pastor came out. I never knew the difference. He was in his 60s with thinning gray hair and the comfortable body of someone who has made peace with middle age. He carried a bag of trash to a dumpster, saw me and waved. I waved back. I hoped that would be enough, that he would go back inside and leave me to my existential crisis. Instead, he walked over. Morning. You waiting on someone? No, just sitting. Right, beautiful day for it. He gestured to the bench. Mind if I join you? These old knees need a break. I did mind, but you can't say that to a priest or a pastor, whichever he was. Sure. He sat with a grunt, stretched his legs. We sat in silence for a minute. It was almost comfortable. I'm Pastor Mike, he said finally. This is my church. Well, God's church, but I'm the one who has to fix the air conditioning when it breaks. Must. Nice to meet you, David. You're not from around here, are you? From California. Just passing through. California. Beautiful state. What brings you to Phoenix? The honest answer was, I destroyed my life in 6 hours and got on a plane. But you don't say that to pastors. They have professional obligations. They have to try to help. Just needed to get away for a while. Pastor Mickey nodded. I know that feeling. Sometimes you need to put distance between yourself and whatever's weighing on you. Sometimes physical distance is the only thing that helps. It helps over time. Maybe. Sometimes the thing we're running from catches up with us no matter where we go. Geography doesn't solve internal problems. He paused, but sometimes it gives you enough breathing room to figure out what the problem really is. And if the problem is other people, then you're just like 99% of humanity. Other people are always the problem and also the solution. We're paradoxical creatures. I almost smiled. You don't sound like a pastor. What do I sound like? Someone who's seen a lot of shit. He laughed. A real belly laugh. I have 23 years in ministry. You see it all: marriages falling apart, kids on drugs, people losing faith, people finding it, people pretending they have it when they're screaming inside. You see the whole spectrum of human disaster, and you still believe in God. Most days. Some days I believe in coffee and doing the next right thing. Those days are harder, but they're more honest. We sat in silence again. A car drove by with the bass thumping loud enough to rattle the windows. Someone's Friday morning, someone's soundtrack. You want to tell me what happened? Pastor Mike asked. Or we can just sit here. Either one's fine. I should have said no. I should have kept it to myself. But there's something about strangers that makes the truth easier. They don't know you. They don't have expectations. They can't be disappointed in who you turn out to be. My wife asked me to disappear. I said, so her ex-husband could come back, so her son could have his real father at his wedding. She said the best gift I could give her would be my absence. Pastor Mickey took this in. That's rough. Yeah. What did you do? I disappeared completely. I sold the house I bought for us. I canceled the wedding I was paying for. I withdrew all the money. I filed for divorce. I got on a plane. I looked at him. That makes me petty, vengeful. Does it matter what I think? Maybe. I don't know. Everyone else has opinions. My wife thinks I'm cruel. My stepson thinks I'm angry. His fiancée thinks I'm a monster. I'm curious for the professional opinion. Pastor Mike considered it. I think you're hurt. I think someone asked you to erase yourself from your own life, and instead of doing it quietly, you made sure they felt it. You made sure they understood what they were asking. Is that wrong? Wrong is a complicated word. Was it petty? Maybe was it vengeful? A little. Was it understandable? Absolutely. It's what Jesus would have done. He smiled. Probably not. But Jesus didn't have to deal with divorce lawyers and wedding cancellations. So who knows? I thought you'd tell me to forgive them, turn the other cheek, all that. Eventually, maybe if you want peace, but right now you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel betrayed. You're allowed to protect yourself. God's not asking you to be a doormat. He's asking you to be human. And humans hurt when they're rejected. I spent $800,000 on them. I said, in 3 years I thought we were family. I thought I belonged, and the whole time they were planning my replacement. Pastor Michua whistled. That's a lot of money. No, that's not the point. The point is I thought it meant something. I thought showing up meant something. But it turns out blood is the only thing that matters. DNA trumps everything. Love is just a transaction. And I was stupid enough to think otherwise. You're not stupid. You're disappointed. There's a difference. It feels the same. Yeah, I imagine it does. He stood up, his knees cracking. You know what the hardest part of my job is? What? Watching people lose faith, not in God, in people. Watching someone realize that the person they loved isn't who they thought they were. That's harder than losing God, because you can find God again. You pray, you think, you wrestle with it, and you eventually find your way back. But people, once you see who they really are, you can't unsee it. That loss of innocence is permanent. So what do? You grieve your loss. You feel it. You stop pretending you're fine when you're not. You let yourself be angry and hurt and betrayed. And then, when you're ready, and only when you're ready, you figure out what kind of person you want to be on the other side of this. And if I don't know, then you start small. You do the next right thing. Then the next, you build a life, one decision at a time. That's all any of us can do. He started to walk back to the church. Then he turned around. You're welcome here on Sunday or any day, even if you don't believe. Sometimes just being around people who are trying to be good is enough. Sometimes community is its own kind of faith. Thanks. And David, for what it's worth, you're not a monster. You're just a person who was hurt and hurt back. That's human. That's normal. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. He went inside. I stayed on that bench for another 20 minutes, watching the cars go by, watching the sun get higher, watching the day continue. Despite everything, my phone buzzed. I'd forgotten airplane mode doesn't block alarms, and I'd apparently set one months ago. A reminder. Marcus's wedding. For PM. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. I deleted the alarm. I deleted every alarm and event that had anything to do with them. I wiped the calendar entries, the reminders, the little digital breadcrumbs of a life that no longer existed. When I was done, my calendar was blank. Empty squares stretching out to infinity, no obligations, no commitments, no one expecting anything from me. It should have felt liberating. It felt like an erasure. At 2:37 p.m., I found myself in a bar, not by plan, just by gravitational pull. The way particles find each other in space. The way broken people find alcohol. The bar was called the Cactus Lounge, and it was exactly what you'd imagine. Dark, cool, smelling of stale beer and regret. Neon signs advertising beers that went out of fashion in the 90s. A jukebox in the corner playing country music about lost love and pickup trucks. A pool table in the back with the felt torn. 3 other customers, all alone, all nursing their drinks like medicine, all looking like they'd found this place the same way I had, by accident and necessity. I ordered a scotch. The bartender, a woman in her 40s with bleached blonde hair and tattoos on both arms, poured it without asking what kind. She just grabbed a bottle and poured 3 fingers into a glass. Tough day, she asked. Tough life. Yeah, you and everyone else in here. She gestured to the other customers. We're all running from something. That's what daytime drinking is for. I took a sip of the scotch. It burned good. Burning meant feeling. Feeling meant not disappearing completely. The television over the bar was showing a basketball game with the sound off. Just men running back and forth, fighting over a ball pretending it mattered. The score was close. Someone was winning, someone was losing. In an hour no one would remember. My phone buzzed again. I'd turn off airplane mode at some point. I didn't remember when. Caroline, it's 4 p.m. The wedding should be starting right now. I hope you're happy. I hope destroying Marcus's happiness was worth it. I stared at that text. I tried to feel guilty. I tried to feel something, but I just felt tired. Yeah, I said out loud to no one. I'm really happy. The bartender raised an eyebrow, poured me another drink without asking, and I just stood there in the dark, in the cool, in the company of strangers who knew not to ask questions, and I tried to figure out what comes next after you've disappeared. I woke up Saturday morning in room 237 with a headache that felt like divine punishment and a mouth that tasted like regret. The bedside clock said 11:47 a.m. I had slept past checkout, slept through the entire morning. I had slept through whatever dignity I had left. The Cactus Lounge had been a mistake. For scotches had become 6. 6 had become 8. At some point I had switched to beer, which was always the sign that good decision-making had left the building. I remembered the bartender. Her name was Rita, telling me about her ex-husband, the one who'd gotten the house, the dog, and the retirement account. I remembered agreeing with everything she said, nodding like a dashboard bobblehead, because her pain was my pain, and we were all just victims of love's particular violence. I remembered her calling me an Uber at midnight. I remembered the driver asking me if I was okay. I remembered saying, "Yeah, I'm great. Everything's great. Life's a beautiful mess, and I'm thriving." I remembered none of it was true. My phone was on the bedside table screen dark, probably dead. I didn't plug it in. I didn't want to know what fresh horrors awaited. I didn't want to tally the messages, the missed calls, the escalating urgency of people who wanted something from me. Someone knocked on the door. Free sharp wraps. "Mr. Kurz, it's Brandon from the front desk. You're past checkout. We need to know if you're staying another night." I opened the door. It was Brandon, the kid with the stretched earlobes from check-in. He looked tired. His shift probably should have been over hours ago, but here he was, dealing with guests who couldn't manage basic tasks like leaving on time. "Yes, another night. That's 89 plus tax, and we'll need a card on file." I handed him my credit card, the one Caroline had no access to, the one that was still mine. He swiped it on a mobile reader and handed me a receipt. "You okay?" he asked. "You look like hell." "I'm phenomenal. Living the dream." Right, he didn't believe me. "Well, if you need anything, the desk is open. 24/7. We've got bills on tap in the office. Free for guests who are definitely okay. Thanks." He left. I closed the door, stood in the middle of the room, and tried to figure out what to do with the next 24 hours, with the rest of my life, with the person I was becoming in the absence of everything else. The shower helped. Hot water, which was actually hot this time, washing away the smell of whiskey and cigarettes and bad choices. I stood under the spray for 20 minutes, letting it pound on my skull, trying to beat the hangover into submission through sheer hydraulic force. It didn't work, but it felt like trying. I got dress jeans, a clean shirt from my suitcase, my father's picture still in the jacket pocket, now crinkled from being worn, from being the only thing I'd kept from my old life besides clothes and regret. My dead phone taunted me from the bedside table. I picked it up, plugged it in, watched the charging indicator appear, watched it come back to life, notification by notification, like a wound reopening. 243 text messages, 47 voicemails, 289 emails. The arithmetic of absence logged in digital desperation. I opened the text starting with the most recent from 11:23 a.m. this morning. Unknown number. "Mr. Kurz, this is attorney James Suyabin of Suyabin and Partners. I represent Sophie Chun and her family in a potential lawsuit for breach of contract and emotional damages related to the cancellation of the wedding event. Please contact my office immediately to discuss settlement options. Failure to respond will result in formal legal proceedings." So it was starting the lawsuits, the legal consequences of dismantling a life. I should have been worried. I should have been calling lawyers. I should have been preparing a defense, but I just felt numb. Let them sue. Let them try to get money from someone who'd already given it all. Let them explain to a judge why the man who paid for the entire wedding owed them damages for canceling the thing he'd funded. "Caroline, 10:15 a.m. Sophia's family has hired a lawyer, a real one. They're going to sue you for everything. I hope it was worth it." Marcus, 9:47 a.m. "Why won't you answer? Why are you doing this? You don't care about anyone but yourself." That one almost made me laugh. Caring about anyone but myself, that's funny. 3 years of caring about everyone but myself. 3 years of putting their needs first, their dreams first, their happiness first. And the moment I prioritized my own survival, I was selfish. There were texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Sophie's friends, probably Marcus's friends, people who had been invited to a wedding that didn't happen and who wanted someone to blame. "You're a sociopath. I hope you die alone. What kind of monster destroys a wedding? You're going to hell. Delete, 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 delete." Then I found one from Jennifer, Caroline's sister. Sent at 7:34 a.m. "I know I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I thought you'd want to know. Caroline tried to access your joint checking account last night to pay the wedding vendors out of her own pocket to try to salvage something. The bank told her the account was empty. She yelled at them for 20 minutes. Said it was fraud. Said you'd stolen her money. They explained that since it was a joint account, you had every legal right to withdraw everything. She threw her phone across the room, broke it. She had to use Marcus's phone to keep calling you. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I'm telling you because you should know that she genuinely believed that money was hers, that the house was hers, that everything you paid for was something she was entitled to. She didn't see it as your generosity. She saw it as her due. I'm sorry she did this to you. You deserve better, Jennifer. I read that message 3 times. I tried to feel vindicated. I tried to feel that satisfaction of being right, of having my suspicions confirmed. But I just felt sad. Sad that Caroline had believed she was owed everything. Sad that 3 years of age had created an expectation instead of gratitude. Sad that love had been transactional from the beginning, and I'd been the only one who didn't know it. A voicemail from Caroline at 2:17 a.m. Her voice was slurred. She'd been drinking. Do you think you've won? Do you think? Do you think you've destroyed us, but you've only destroyed yourself, because now everyone knows. Everyone knows what you are. You're the guy who ruined a wedding. You're the guy who kicked his family out of their home. You're the villain, David. You're the villain, and now everyone can see it. She was crying. Drunk and crying, the kind that's half sob and half hiccup. I did love you. Maybe not in the way you wanted, but I loved you. And you threw it away. You threw it all away because you're too proud to share. Too proud to understand that families are complicated, that love is complicated, that Robert coming back didn't mean you stopped matching. A pause, a breath, the clink of ice in a glass. But if you stop matching, you don't matter anymore. Because you're gone and we're still here. We're still a family, and you're just alone in some hotel thinking you've won something. But you didn't win. You lost. You lost everything. The voicemail ended. I deleted it. She was right about one thing. I was alone in a hotel, but I didn't think I'd won. There were no winners in this, just different categories of losers. I scrolled through more messages, more anger, more threats, more people who suddenly cared very much about what I had done, people who hadn't cared at all while I was doing everything. Then I found one from Martin Chin sent at 8:15 a.m. David, just to confirm. The close went through. The house is officially mine as of midnight last night. The deed is recorded. You should see the wire transfer in your account by Monday morning. 500,000. Hope wherever you are you're doing okay. That was the fastest deal I've ever closed, and I've seen people desperate to sell. But you weren't desperate, you were determined. There's a difference. Take care. And if you ever need anything, you've got my number. Martin, $500,000. It would hit my account on Monday. $500,000 for a house I bought for $680,000. A loss of $180,000 in 18 months. But it wasn't a loss, it was a fee. The cost of extracting myself from a life that didn't want me. And compared to what I'd already spent, $847,000 in 3 years, it was a bargain. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since Thursday. The banana yesterday at the hotel breakfast. Tom was getting fuzzy. The days blurring together in the particular way they do when your life has no structure. I left the hotel, found a diner 3 blocks away called of Sunrise Cafe. Even though it was well past noon and Sunrise had given up hours ago. The place was half full. The late lunch crowd, the early dinner crowd, people who existed in the spaces between normal mealtimes. I sat at the counter, ordered coffee, a burger and fries, because that's what you eat when you're rebuilding from the rubble. Comfort food. Food that doesn't judge, food that just fills the empty spaces. The waitress's name tag said about 50 with the efficient kindness of someone who'd done this job for decades. She poured my coffee without asking how I took it. Just poured it alone and moved on. The coffee was good, really good. Better than hotel coffee, better than airport coffee, better than the whiskey I'd been using to self-medicate. First time here, Deb asked, appearing with my burger faster than seemed possible. First time in Phoenix. Welcome to the surface of the sun. It'll be nice until May. Then you'll wonder why humans live here. Visiting or moving. Don't know yet. She nodded as if that made all the sense in the world. A lot of people arrive here not knowing why. Something about the desert. It either heals you or it finishes you off. There's no in between. Which one did it do to you? Both. I came here after my second divorce. I thought I was going to die here. That was 23 years ago. Now I own this place, and I'm on husband number 3. So I guess it healed me by finishing off the parts that needed to die. She left to wait on another customer. I ate my burger. It was good, simple, honest, exactly what it claimed to be, and nothing more. There was comfort in that. My phone rang. I'd left it on, still on the table, still connected to the mess I'd left behind. Robert's number or the unknown number that was probably Robert. I answered. The hangover made me reckless. What? David, it's Robert. We need to talk. We really don't. I'm calling about Marcus. He's not doing well. Sophie's family is threatening to sue. Her father wants to press charges for fraud. The wedding guests are demanding refunds for their travel expenses. This is getting out of hand. Sounds like a problem. It's your problem. You created it. No, I solved my problem. I removed myself from a situation where I wasn't wanted. What happened after that is your problem. You're the father. Now you wanted the job. This is what it looks like. I don't have the money to fix this. I don't have. You should have thought about that before you decided to reclaim your family. You should have thought about what it really costs to be a parent. A hint: it's not just showing up. It's showing up with resources, with capacity, with follow-through. But you don't have any of that, do you? You just have sobriety and good intentions. And the magic of DNA. This isn't about money. Everything is about money. That's the lesson here. Love is about money. Family is about money. Showing up is about money. And I don't have any more money to give you. I spent it all on a family that didn't want me. Caroline made a mistake. She knows that now. She wants to make things right. She wants you to come back. I laughed. I actually laughed. No, she doesn't. She wants me to come back and pay for everything while you play dad. She wants her ATM back. There's a difference. You're being unfair. I'm being accurate. There's a difference. I took a breath. I tried to calm down, failed. Let me ask you something, Robert. How much money have you spent on Marcus in the last 6 months? Since you've been back? Silence. A ballpark figure. Eyeball it. I don't see how that's relevant. Humor me. Maybe $2,000. I took him out to dinner a few times. I bought him some tools for his apartment. I paid for his haircut before the wedding. $2,000 in 6 months. Do you know how much I spent in the same period? I don't know. $114,000. His college loans, the wedding deposits, his car insurance, his rent when he was between jobs, medical expenses, his graduate school student loans that he forgot to mention. $114,000 in 6 months. That's what it cost to be his father during the period you guys were having coffee dates and healing conversations. I didn't have that kind of money. I know. That's why you need me. That's why Caroline is calling. Not because she loves me, not because she realized she made a mistake, but because she did the math and realized that Robert can't pay the bills. And without someone to pay the bills, the fantasy falls apart. That's not true. Then prove it. Pay for Marcus's next wedding. Pay for Sophie's family's lawyer. Pay for the wedding guests' travel expenses. Pay for all of it. Be the father you claim you want to be. With actions, not words. With money, not intentions. I can't. I know. I can't either. Not anymore. Because I already did for 3 years, and it bought me nothing, except a request to disappear. So now I'm disappeared, and it's your turn to figure out what fatherhood costs when the checkbook is closed. I hung up, turned the phone off, finished my burger. Deb refilled my coffee. You okay, honey? No, but I'm working on it. That's all any of us can do. She paused. You want some pie? Pie helps. Don't ask me why. It just does. What kind? Apple. I made it this morning. Is it still warm? Yep, okay. She brought the pie. It was good, better than good. The kind of pie someone's grandmother made. The kind with love baked into every layer. I ate it slowly. I let it fill some of the empty spaces. I let the sweetness cut through the bitter. My phone remained off. The messages piling up somewhere in the ether. The lawsuits forming. The anger metastasizing, and I was sitting at the counter of a diner of his coffee, eating pie made by a woman named of trying to figure out what comes next after you've disappeared from your own life. Outside, Phoenix was continuing. People were going to work. Families were having lunch. Couples were holding hands. The world was spinning on its axis with complete indifference to my suffering or anyone else's. That was comforting in its own way. The universe didn't care. The universe just was. And maybe that was enough. Maybe being was enough. Do you want the recipe? Deb asked, appearing with the check for the pie. Yeah, you seem like someone who needs to learn how to make something sweet to balance out all that sour. I don't bake. Everybody bakes. Some people just don't know it yet. She scribbled something on a napkin. That's the recipe. Make it when you're ready, when you want to create instead of destroy. She walked away. I left cash on the counter. Too much. But who cared? And I put the napkin with the pie recipe in my pocket. A scrap of paper with instructions for sweetness. A map back to being human. I walked back to the San Piperon through the Phoenix afternoon, through the heat, the light, the indifferent beauty of the desert, and I tried to believe that tomorrow would be better, that somewhere on the other side of all this disappearing was a person worth becoming, that the pie recipe in my pocket meant something, that absence was just the first step toward presence. I was trying. That had to count for something, even if I was the only one counting. Sunday morning arrived with the particular silence that accompanies hotel rooms and lives on hold. I woke at 6:17 a.m. with no alarm. What happens when your body doesn't know what else to do? There was no job to wake up for, no family to attend to, no obligations beyond existing, and trying not to think too much about what that meant. The phone remained off. I'd learned that lesson. Every time I turned it on, the world rushed in with its demands and accusations and desperate attempts to pull me back into a story I had already left. So it stayed dark, dead, a small black rectangle of blessed silence. I showered, shaved for the first time since Thursday. I watched the 3-day stubble circle the drain like the wreckage of who I used to be. The man in the mirror looked thinner, older, as if someone had reached in and removed something essential, leaving only the architecture behind. But he also looked clear-eyed. That was the strange thing. For all the pain, all the loss, there was a clarity in his eyes that hadn't been there before. The clarity that comes from understanding exactly where you stand, from knowing that the ground beneath your feet is solid because you built it yourself, not because someone allowed you to stand on theirs. I got dressed not yesterday's clothes or the clothes from the plane. Fresh jeans, a clean shirt, an attempt to be a person who had tomorrow figured out. The hotel breakfast room was mostly empty at 7 a.m. on a Sunday. Just me and a businessman who looked like he'd been traveling for 1,000 years, and an elderly couple holding hands while they ate oatmeal, still in love after what looked like a lifetime of practice. I watched them as I drank my coffee. I watched the way he buttered her toast without her asking, the way she touched his hand when she spoke, the casual intimacy of people who had built something real, something that lasted. I'd thought Caroline and I were building that. I'd been wrong. But these people, they had figured it out somehow. They had found the formula that worked, or maybe they were just lucky. Maybe love was always luck, and I'd just drawn the short end of the stick. The businessman left. The elderly couple finished their oatmeal and made their slow way to the door, still holding hands. The man turned to look at me, caught my eye, and nodded. A small acknowledgement. A moment of connection between strangers. Then they were gone, and I was alone with my coffee, my thoughts, and the question I'd been avoiding since Friday. Now what? I couldn't stay in Phoenix forever. Sooner or later, the hotel would want its room back. Sooner or later, my money would run out. Not soon, but sooner or later. Sooner or later, I would need a plan beyond existing in the space between things. But I didn't want to make plans. Plans were what got me here. Plans were Caroline saying, "Let's buy a house together," and me believing it meant forever. Plans were Marcus saying, "You're important to me," and me believing it meant irreplaceable. Plans were building a future with people who were secretly building a different future without you. So screw plans. I would try something else. I would try just moving, just doing the next thing, just existing in the immediate present without worrying about tomorrow or next week or next year. At 8:30 a.m., I checked out of the hotel. I drove my rental car. When had I rented a car? Yesterday, the day before, time was doing strange things. I drove through the streets of Phoenix, which were quiet with Sunday morning peace. The churches were filling up, families were having pancake breakfast, normal people were doing normal things in their normal lives. I drove until I found myself at South Mountain Park, the largest municipal park in the United States, according to a sign at the entrance. 16,000 acres, hiking trails, and the particular beauty that emanates from places humans haven't completely ruined yet. I parked. I started walking with no map, no plan, just following a trail that wound up into the desert hills, away from the city, away from everything. The morning was still cool. The sun was rising, but it hadn't hit full strength yet. The desert was waking up. Birds singing, lizards scurrying across rocks. The whisper of wind through creosote bushes. Everything was living in spite of the hostility, everything adapting to survive. There's a metaphor there, I thought, something about resilience, about finding ways to exist in places that don't want you. But I was too tired for metaphors. I walked for an hour, maybe two. I lost track of time, the way you do when you don't have to be anywhere. The trail climbed, my legs burned, my lungs protested the effort, the altitude, and the fact that I'd spent the last 3 days drinking, smoking, and generally treating my body like a vehicle I was trying to destroy. At a scenic overlook, I stopped, sat on a rock, looked out at Phoenix spread below, a grid of streets and buildings and swimming pools sparkling in the morning light. A city of 2 million people, all of them living their lives, all of them dealing with their own private disasters and ordinary day triumphs. From up here it all looked manageable, understandable, like a map you could figure out if you studied it long enough. My father used to say that about problems. Get some altitude, he'd say. Look down on it. Everything looks smaller from a distance. He died of a heart attack 7 years ago. Just dropped dead in his hardware store, surrounded by nails and lumber and the smell of sawdust. The doctor said it was quick, painless. One moment he was alive, the next he wasn't. No warning, no goodbye. I'd envied him that, the clean exit, the not having to deal with the slow dissolution of everything you'd built. But now, sitting on this rock in the desert, I wondered if that was wrong. If maybe the hard part, the dissolution, the grieving, the picking up the pieces was actually the important part, the part that taught you who you were when everything else was stripped away. My father had never faced that. He died believing in hard work, marriage, and the American dream. He died thinking that if you did the right things, the world rewarded you. He was wrong, but he never lived long enough to find out. I took out the picture I'd been carrying, now crinkled, worn at the edges. My father in front of his store smiling, that quiet smile wearing his name on his chest like a suit of armor. I messed up, Dad, I said out loud to no one. I thought I was doing it right. I thought I was being you. Working hard, taking care of your family, showing up every day, but none of it mattered. Did it matter? The desert absorbed my words without comment. A hawk circled overhead hunting for something. The wind picked up, bringing the smell of dust and sage. Or maybe it did matter, I continued. Maybe it did matter, and that's why it hurts so much. Because I did love them. I did show up. I did everything right, and it still wasn't enough because there's no formula, there's no equation. You can do everything perfect and still lose. The hawk dove caught something, rose again with breakfast clutched in its talons. I sold the house. I canceled the wedding. I disappeared like she asked. And now everyone thinks I'm the villain. Maybe I am. Maybe that's what happens when you finally stand up for yourself. You become the bad guy in someone else's story. I folded the picture carefully, put it back in my pocket. I miss you. I wish you were here to tell me what to do. But you're not. No one is. It's just me now. Just me in this mess. And the question of what comes next. A group of hikers appeared on the trail. For people in their 20s laughing about something, passing a water bottle, living their beautiful, uncomplicated lives. They waved as they went by. I waved back. We were all just people on a trail trying to get to some destination that probably didn't matter as much as we thought it did. I sat there for another hour. I watched the sun get higher. I watched the city wake up completely. I watched the desert do what deserts do. Exist indifferent, beautiful, needing no permission, no approval, no love. At 11:30 a.m., I hiked back down. My legs were rubber. My water bottle was empty. My phone was still off, silent, protecting me from the world that wanted something from me. In the parking lot, a family was loading up their car. Parents, 3 kids, all of them sunburned, happy and tired in the good way that comes from doing something together. The father was struggling with a folding chair. One of the kids, about 7, tried to help, making it worse in the way that kids do. The father laughed, ruffled the kid's hair. Nice try, champ. Let's do it together. They folded the chair together. The kid was beaming with pride at this small accomplishment. The father loaded it into the trunk with exaggerated care, making it seem important, making the kid feel useful. That's what fathers do, I thought. They make their kids feel important. They show up, they try. I had done that for 3 years. I had done exactly that. It hadn't been enough, but I had done it. That had to count for something. I drove back to the hotel. The room was still there, anonymous, mine for another night if I wanted it. The housekeeper had made the bed with the sharp corners, left clean towels, and probably wondered what kind of person was living here day after day. Just a carry-on bag and no apparent purpose. I sat on the freshly made bed and turned my phone on for the first time in 24 hours. The notifications came in a smaller wave. This time the world was moving on. People were getting tired of being angry at me. They were finding new things to be angry about, new dramas to consume them, new villains to replace me. 314 texts now, 52 voicemails, 347 emails. But the frequency was slowing down, the urgency was fading. I was becoming old news. Yesterday's scandal. The wedding that didn't happen was already becoming an anecdote, a story people would tell at parties. The time someone's stepfather lost his mind and canceled everything. I scrolled through the messages without reading most of them. I saw the same names. Caroline, Marcus, Robert, Sophie, Jennifer, unknown numbers that were probably lawyers or reporters or people who had made my disaster their entertainment. Then I found one from this morning, 9:47 a.m. from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Kurz, my name is Dr. Sarah Chun. I'm a therapist in Phoenix. I don't know you, but I know your story. It's been making the rounds on some online forums. I want you to know that what you did wasn't cruel. What you did was set a boundary. It may have been a dramatic boundary, but it was still you protecting yourself from people who weren't protecting you. If you're still in Phoenix and you want to talk to someone, my practice is accepting new patients. First session is free. No judgment, just a space to process what you're going through. I'm including my office address below. Walk-ins are welcome Monday through Friday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You're not a monster, you're just human. And being human is hard. Dr. Chun, I stared at that message for a long time. I tried to figure out if it was real or some elaborate trap. I tried to understand why a stranger would offer help to someone everyone else had condemned. Then I realized it didn't matter. Real or trap, help or harm, what did I have to lose? I'd already lost everything. Might as well try therapy. I Googled her. Dr. Sarah Chun, licensed clinical psychologist. Her website showed a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a practice that specialized in trauma, betrayal, and rebuilding after loss. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. I'd give it that. I saved her address. I didn't reply to the message. I didn't know what to say, but I saved it. The rest of the messages I ignored. Caroline threatening legal action again. Marcus begging me to call. Sophie's father wanting me to know I had destroyed his daughter's life, and he would make sure I paid for it. Delete, delete, delete. Then I found another one from Jennifer. Sent at 10:23 a.m. I thought you should know. Caroline is telling everyone you were abusive. Not physically. She can't claim that because it's not true, but emotionally, financially. She's saying you were controlling, that you made her dependent on you, that you used money to manipulate her and Marcus. She's building a narrative where you're the abuser and she's the victim. Robert is backing her up. They're going to try to sue you for the house, for the money you withdrew, for everything. They found a lawyer who specializes in financial abuse cases. I'm telling you this not to scare you, but so you're prepared. She's rewriting the story, making herself the hero. It's what she does. It's what she's always done. Keep your receipts. Keep your records. Keep everything that proves you were generous, not controlling. You're going to need it. Jennifer. Financial abuse, emotional manipulation, controlling behavior. I almost laughed. Almost. Why? Of course. This is what it would become. Of course. Caroline would find a way to be the victim in this story. Of course, the man who paid for everyone would be reimagined as the oppressor. That's how it worked. The person who leaves is always the villain. The person who stays is the one who gets to write the story. But I had my own story. I had the spreadsheet. I had the receipts. I had 3 years of bank statements, credit card bills, and payment confirmations. I had the evidence of generosity, of showing up, of loving people who didn't love me back. Let them sue. Let them try to prove I was controlling when I had never once said no to anything they wanted. Let them explain to a judge why the man who bought them a house, paid off their student loans, and funded a wedding was actually the abuser. I'd be curious to see how that worked out. Another text, this one from Martin Chin. Hey David, the wire transfer went through this morning. The $500K should be in your account. Hope you're doing okay out there. And hey, if you're still in Phoenix and you need work, I've got a project that could use someone with your expertise. Systems integration for property management software, contract work, good pay, flexible hours, no pressure. Just thought I'd offer. Martin work. A project, a reason to get up in the morning besides just surviving another day. I hadn't thought about work, hadn't thought past the immediate crisis, but here was someone offering me a purpose, a way to be useful again. I texted back, interested. We can talk tomorrow. His reply came back in 2 minutes. Absolutely. Swing by my office at 10 a.m. The address is below. Bring coffee. We'll figure it out. A meeting, an appointment, something to do tomorrow that wasn't wallowing in self-pity or drinking or trying to figure out who I was in the absence of everything else. Progress, maybe, or just distraction. But distraction was good. Distraction kept you from thinking too hard about the fact that your life had imploded. I looked at the text from Dr. Chin again. Therapy and work. 2 paths forward, Two ways of becoming a person again. Outside my window, Sunday afternoon was turning into Sunday evening. Families were having dinner. Couples were going to movies. The world was continuing its relentless march toward tomorrow, dragging everyone along whether they were ready or not. I ordered a pizza from a place down the street. I ate it while watching a basketball game on TV with the sound off. Just bodies moving across a court, following rules, chasing goals, pretending it mattered. The pizza was good. The game was boring. The hotel room was the same as it had been yesterday and the day before. Anonymous, temporary, perfectly sufficient for a life on hold. At 9:30 p.m., I turned my phone off again, took a shower, got into bed with the lights off and the curtains open, watching Phoenix light up the night sky with its millions of stories, its millions of lives, its millions of people who were probably not thinking about me at all. That was good. I didn't want them to think about me. I wanted them to leave me alone. I wanted to be nothing to them, since I had clearly been nothing all along. Tomorrow I would meet with Martin. Tomorrow I would maybe think about therapy. Tomorrow I would try to build something that looked like a life. But tonight I would just sleep. I would just exist in the darkness without fighting. I would just be absent without apologizing for it. Tomorrow could wait. Everything could wait. I was disappearing on my own terms now, and there was freedom in that. Monday morning dawned clean and cool. Well, cool for Phoenix standards, which meant about 60 degrees and the promise of warmth by 10. I woke up at 7 a.m. sharp. I didn't need an alarm. The body clock was still running on routines from a life that no longer existed. The old David would be getting ready for conference calls and meetings and the careful choreography of being important. The new David had a 10 a.m. appointment and the rest of the day stretching out like a blank canvas. I dreamed about Caroline. Not a nightmare exactly, just a dream where we were in the house, my house, her house, the house that now belonged to Martin Chen. And she kept rearranging the furniture, moving the couch, switching the dining room table, changing everything while I stood there, trying to explain that we had to leave, that the house wasn't ours anymore, that we didn't have time for interior design. She just smiled and kept moving things. "We've got all the time in the world," she'd said. "You're not going anywhere. You never are." I woke up from that with my heart racing. The particular anxiety of dreams that feel more real than reality. But it was just a dream, and she was wrong. I had gone somewhere. I was somewhere. Phoenix at 7 a.m. on a Monday 3 days after disappearing, still figuring out how to exist in the space I'd created. The phone remained off through breakfast, through the shower. While I dressed in clothes that were starting to feel lived in, real, like they belonged to an actual person instead of a ghost pretending to be human. At 9:15 a.m., I drove to a coffee shop called Deserman Coffee because Martin had said bring coffee and I'll be damned if I show up empty-handed. The place was the opposite of the corporate chains. Local art on the walls, mismatched furniture, a barista with blue hair and enough piercings to set off a metal detector. "What'll it be?" she asked with a genuine warmth. The kind that wasn't rehearsed or customer service trained, just actual human interest in making someone's morning better. 2 large black coffees, and whatever you recommend for someone who's trying to start over. She considered this seriously. The cardamom rose late. It's weird, but good. Kind of like starting over. You're not sure about it at first, but it grows on you. Sold. She made the drinks with the concentration of someone performing surgery. Every movement deliberate, every pour measured. When she handed them to me, the rose late had a heart drawn in the foam. "For luck," she said, "everyone starting over needs a little." How do you know I'm starting over? Everyone who comes in here at 9 a.m. on a Monday looking like they haven't slept in 3 days is either starting over or ending something. You've got the look of starting over. The ending ones drink whiskey, not coffee. I drank the whiskey on Saturday. So today's for coffee. See? Progress. She rang up the order. "You're going to be okay, by the way. I can tell you've got that determined thing going on. Like you're not just surviving, you're planning something." I left a $20 tip on an 18 order. She deserved it for the impromptu therapy. Martin's office was in a low-rise building just off Camelback Road. Nice, but not ostentatious. The kind of space successful people use when they don't need to prove anything. The directory listed Chun Investment Properties. 3rd floor. The elevator was slow, giving me time to second-guess everything. What was I doing here? Why was I meeting with someone about a job when my life was still in shambles? Why was I pretending I could function like a normal person when 3 days ago I dismantled my entire existence? But the elevator kept climbing, indifferent to my crisis, and the doors opened on the third floor. Martin's office was at the end of the hall. Glass walls, modern furniture, a receptionist who looked up from her computer with professional warmth. "You must be David. Martin said you'd be here at 10. You're early." The traffic was lighter than I expected. It's Phoenix. Traffic's always lighter than everywhere else. She gestured to a leather couch. "Have a seat. He's on a call, but he should be done in 5 minutes. Can I get you anything?" "Oh, you brought coffee, man." "Ready." I sat down. I try not to think too much about what I was doing here. I try not to calculate how many hours had passed since I'd worked on anything real, anything that mattered, anything that made me feel useful. The glass walls allowed me to see into Martin's office. He was on the phone gesturing with his free hand, pacing back and forth. Even through the glass, I could see the energy. The guy who'd bought my house in 24 hours was not someone who did things slowly. He saw me, held up a finger 1 minute, and ended his call. He opened his office door with genuine pleasure on his face. "You look better than you did on Saturday. You still look like hell, but a better hell. Come on in." His office was organized chaos. Property listings on one wall, monitors displaying spreadsheets and financial projections, pictures of buildings and developments, a whiteboard covered in numbers, timelines, and what looked like architectural sketches. "Coffee," I said, handing him one of the black coffees, as requested. "You're hired. Anyone who shows up on time with coffee has passed the initial screening." He took a long sip. "So how are you really?" "I honestly don't know. I'm here. I'm functional. I'm not drinking at 9 a.m. anymore. So that's progress. That's the spirit. Set the bar low. Exceed expectations." He sat on the edge of his desk instead of behind it. A deliberate choice. I recognized it. Making this feel like a conversation instead of an interview. "I'm not going to beat around the bush, David. I know what happened. Not all the details, but enough. Your wife asked you to disappear, so you did spectacularly. And now you're in Phoenix because you needed to be anywhere that wasn't there. That's about the size of it. Good, I respect that. I respect someone who burns bridges when the bridges are structurally unsound anyway." He gestured to a chair. "Sit. Let's talk about what I need and what you need and see if they match." I sat, sipped my cardamom rose late. The barista was right. Weird, but good. I buy distressed properties. Martin continued. Mostly residential, some commercial. I fix them up. I flip them. I rent them, whatever makes sense. I do about 50 transactions a year. I used to do more, but I got tired of working 90 hours a week and decided life is short. Sounds familiar? Yeah. You sold your software company for what was it? 12 million. 14. How do I research my deals? When someone wants to sell a 680,000 house for 500,000 in 24 hours, I do my homework. I found your LinkedIn. I found the articles about your company. I found your whole history. He shrugged. Sorry if that's creepy professional training. It's fine. Saves me from explaining. Here's my problem. I'm terrible with systems. I buy properties, I fix properties, I sell properties. But the backend, the software, the databases, the integration between my accounting, my property management, and my tenant tracking is a mess. I'm using 5 different programs that don't talk to each other. I'm spending 20 hours a week on bullshit that should be automated. And you want me to fix it? I want you to build something that works, something clean, elegant, something that lets me do my job without fighting the technology that's supposed to be helping me. He leaned forward. I know you're not looking. I know you probably don't ever need to work again, but I'm guessing you need something to do with your brain, something that isn't thinking about whatever you left behind. He wasn't wrong. What's the scope? I asked. A full custom build. An integration layer. What are we talking about? Whatever you think makes sense. I'll show you what I'm working with. You tell me what it needs. Contract work. You set your rate, you set your schedule. You work from wherever you want. Here the hotel, a coffee shop. I don't care. I just need someone who understands systems and can bring order to the chaos. Why me? You could hire any consultant, any development firm, because consultants don't give a shit. They bill hours, they deliver mediocrity, and they move on to the next client. You're not a consultant. You're someone who built a company from nothing and sold it for millions. You understand quality? You understand how to build things that last? He paused. And because you need this as much as I do, maybe more. A project, a purpose, something to wake up for besides room service and regret. I drank my late, let the words settle. I felt something shift in my chest. Not hope exactly, But maybe it's distant cousin. Possibility. Show me what you're working with. For the next 2 hours, Martin walked me through his systems, and he wasn't exaggerating. It was a mess. Property listings in one program, tenant information in another, financial tracking in a third, maintenance requests in a fourth. None of them talked to each other. They all required manual data entry and reconciliation, the kind of soul-crushing busy work that slowly kills you. But messes were solvable. That was what I did. I looked at broken systems and figured out how to make them work. It was like a puzzle in my brain. My poor, exhausted brain, which had been spinning in circles for 3 days, suddenly had something to focus on that wasn't grief. This is fixable, I said finally. It's actually very fixable. You need a central database with API integration to your existing tools. Build a custom dashboard that aggregates everything. Automate the workflow between acquisition, renovation, listing, and tenant management. Maybe 6 weeks of development, then 2 weeks of testing and refinement. How much? $50,000 is below market rate, but it's also therapy for me. Building something is better than breaking things. Martin considered. $60,000 because I don't want you to undervalue yourself. You're worth more than discount therapy rates. Deal. We shook on it. He pulled out a contract that looked suspiciously ready, as if he'd already written it this morning. Sign. This is a standard consulting agreement. You retain all intellectual property rights. If you want to sell this system to other property managers when we're done, that's your business. I just get to use it. I glanced at the contract. It was fair, generous, even. You wrote this before I got here. I'm an optimist, and I'm a good judge of character. I knew you'd say yes. How? Because you're not someone who stays broken. You're someone who builds. It's in your DNA. You can't help it. He handed me a pen. Welcome to the team. Such as it is. I signed. I felt something settle. Not happiness, not yet. But purpose, direction, a reason to exist tomorrow that wasn't just about surviving another day. One more thing, Martin said. You're living in a hotel. That's expensive and depressing. I've got a property, a small house in Arcadia. The tenant just moved out. I'm about to list it for rent. Stay there while you work on this project. No charge. Consider it part of the consulting fee. That's too much. It's business. You're saving me months of frustration. A house for 2 months is cheap by comparison. He pulled up pictures on his computer. 2-bedroom, 1 bath. Nothing fancy, but it's furnished, it's got a yard, and it doesn't smell like industrial cleaner. The picture showed a modest Spanish-style bungalow with a terracotta tile roof and desert landscaping. Exactly the kind of place someone could disappear into and pretend it normal. When can I move in? Today if you want. I'll have my assistant drop the keys off at your hotel this afternoon. The lease agreement's in the contract you just signed. Page 7. I flipped to page 7. Sure enough, you really were confident. Confident in you. Big difference. He stood up. Go home. Pack. Move into a place that has real windows and a kitchen. Start working on my systems tomorrow. And Deb. Yeah. Welcome to Phoenix. We're glad you're here. I left his office with a contract, a purpose, and something that felt almost like hope. The cardamom rose late was cold now, but I finished it anyway. The barista was right. Weird, but good. It was a decent motto for starting over. At noon, I was back at the San Piperin. Brandon was at the front desk. Checking out, he asked, Yeah, I'm moving into a real house, living like a real person. Glad to hear it, man. You look better than you did on Friday. You've still got that my life just exploded look, but less intense. That's the goal. Gradual de-intensification. He printed my bill. I paid it. The total for 3 nights was $267. The price of temporary existence. Not bad, all things considered. Take care, Brandon said. And hey, whatever you were running from, I hope you're done running. Me too, Brandon. I packed my bag, the same one I'd arrived with, the same clothes, the same life, compressed into carry-on size. But something felt different, lighter. Not the absence of weight, but the presence of direction. At 2:30 p.m. Martin's assistant, an efficient woman named Prilla, met me at the hotel with the keys and the address. It's not much, she said, but it's clean, it's quiet, and the neighbors are nice. There's a grocery store 3 blocks away, a coffee shop on the corner, everything you need. It's perfect. The house was in Arcadia, an older neighborhood with mature trees and houses that had character instead of uniformity. The kind of place where people actually lived instead of just existing between commutes. 1247, East Cambella Avenue. A small bungalow, white stucco, red tile roof, a front yard of gravel and desert plants that didn't need much water, a backyard with a lemon tree and a small porch. I unlocked the door, walked inside. The house smelled of fresh air and possibility. The furniture was simple. Couch, table, bed. Nothing fancy, nothing that carried memories, just objects that served their purpose without demanding anything. In the kitchen, I found a note from Prilla. Welcome home. There's coffee in the cupboard and eggs in the fridge. The Wi-Fi password's taped to the router. Don't get lost. P. Home. I hadn't had a home in 3 days. I hadn't had a real home in longer than that, if I was being honest. The house with Caroline had been hers. I just paid for it. I lived in it and pretended that was the same thing. But this was mine temporary, borrowed. Not actually mine at all, but it was my space, my silence, my chance to figure out who I was when no one else was watching. I unpacked my suitcase. I put my father's picture on the bedside table. I made coffee, sat in the backyard, and watched the afternoon light filter through the lemon tree. My phone was still off, silent, protecting me from the world that wanted something from me. But tomorrow I would turn it on. Tomorrow I would deal with whatever messages had piled up. Tomorrow I would be brave enough to face the consequences of disappearing. But today I would just sit here in this borrowed house, in this borrowed life, drinking coffee, watching the light move through the leaves, not being anyone's husband, anyone's father, anyone's ATM, just David, just me. Starting over, one day at a time. 3 months later, the lemon tree in the backyard had started to bear fruit. Small, bitter things that weren't ready yet, but would be soon. I'd learned patience from that tree. I learned that growth happens slowly, invisibly, until one day you look up and something that wasn't there before suddenly is. I was sitting on the patio on a Tuesday morning in May when my phone rang. The phone I had finally started keeping on again. The phone that had stopped screaming with emergencies and had settled into the quiet rhythm of a life that belonged to me. It was Jennifer, Caroline's sister. We'd been talking occasionally, careful conversations that steered clear of the wreckage, that focused instead on the Phoenix weather and how strange life could be. Hi, I said. Hi. I thought you should know. Caroline and Robert got married yesterday. A small ceremony, just family. Marcus was the best man. I waited for it to hurt. I waited for the anger or the betrayal or the sharp sting of being replaced. But I felt nothing. Not even relief. Just the quiet acknowledgement that people I used to know were doing things that used to matter to me. That's nice, I said. I hope they're happy. Are you okay? Yeah, I really am. It's weird. No, it's healthy. A pause. Marcus asks about you sometimes. He wants to reach out, but he doesn't know if you want to hear from him. I thought about that, about the boy I had raised for 3 years, the boy who'd called me dad when he needed something, the boy who was now learning what family costs now that Robert was paying the bills. Tell him I'm okay. Tell him I hope he's finding what he's looking for. Tell him I don't hate him. I never did. Are you ever coming back to California? Maybe someday, when it's just geography instead of history. After I hung up, I sat with the news. Caroline married Robert. The circle was complete. The replacement was finalized. Everything I predicted had come true, and I felt fine. My laptop was on the patio table, open to the property management system I'd built for Martin. It was beautiful, clean code, elegant solutions, everything talking to everything else the way systems should. We'd launched it last month. Martin had already referred me to 3 other property managers. I had more work than I could